Episode 199 starts right now. Hello, everybody. It's me. Welcome to the show, the Winners and Losers program on YouTube, the apps, and down at your local library. Thank you for tuning in. We're doing it. We're cheering for democracy, everybody. Did you watch the shows this week? It's Friday morning here. I'm recording. Hopefully I get this posted by Saturday. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. You know, things get dicey. But yeah, we're talking about DNC. I got a bunch of old clips. Old, by old I mean like bookmarks that I've sort of gathered up. You know, it's not going to be real super organized and super coordinated as I've been getting ready here, prepping, sort of just going like, gosh, I could really do a lot more to prep all this stuff. And then I could do like a podcast every day and I could put it out all the time. Doing this stuff that the podcasting, it's a funny thing because eventually you succeed, I hear, and there then becomes a different set of reward structures too. Maybe not different, but additional. And that can include people watching your videos, listening to your show, and then maybe even money at some point. It'd be not, you know, the dream is that this becomes financially sustainable for all sorts of reasons. Link at the top of the screen, everybody. Patreon. Blah, blah, blah. So, but as I get going in the phase I'm in, I often feel dejected and it's not just because I go, woo, money. It's not just that. It's just more like my energy. It's just hard for me to summon up or shift my 95 gear bike, a little bike switcher thingy that makes the gears go, and then the chain has to switch. Shifting into the like performance-y, like ready to talk into the camera guy mode that I do. But then I like it. Then I start getting excited about all. Look at all these fucking tabs I got. Look at these tabs. Look at this shit. Look, I'm going to go quickly. Look, boom. We got DNC stuff. Adam McKay. We're going to do an old clip there. They got Kathy Hochul. We got Shawn Fain. We got Hillary Clinton. Oh my God, I'm spoiling everything. So this is just a little bit of stuff that I've prepped. Tons of stuff to go through. Phil Donahue died. Oh no, we got to think. Jen Psaki. The Psaki bombs. More like the smart, precision-guided Psaki bombs. You can't be defeated. Something there. Hasanabi, and then we got TYT talking. Oh shit, there's some stuff going on there about with David Sirota, which will be fun, talking about paid family leave and how important it is that Democrats fight for that. You don't give it to your workers, at least not to me, but you should say it to the camera that it's important that people get that. But there's a clip from that that's probably gonna end up being in the film. Related to this whole thing. So yeah, welcome so much. I've got all those little tabs, but I'm just sitting there going, gosh, there's so many little moments to these DNC things, and I sort of do a stream offline, like that's kind of my thing, and I probably would be a pretty good like live streamer because I can talk for fucking ever, and there's no shortage of it, and I'm somewhat entertaining to watch while I eat. I don't do that for you guys. Why did I say the word guys like that? But I chew in a unique and novel way that you would find mesmerizing. Okay? Amazon.com/Prime. All right? Give Jeff Bezos your Bezos bucks. Help the guy. He needs a little more. He needs just a little more. Just a little more. Has anybody ever... I'm not going to say what I was about to say. I'm going to talk about spaceships malfunctioning. So, yeah. What the hell did I say? Oh, yeah. So, like, this DNC stream... Let me just jump onto one here that I those are all, I don't want to mess with those because those are like precise. But I have all these, you know, DNC streamy clips. Okay, so yeah, like I could just, it's just so easy to click around and be like, we're going to watch this one. They did a lot of war. We love all the big boomy. We did a lot of that this week. A lot of military stuff, a lot of Coach Steve Kerr. This is from the Monday episode, or Monday day one. You know, some moving moments, lots of tears. It's hard not to get emotional when you feel the inspiration of a nation asserting itself and its right to destroy, to engage in a racist genocide on the other side of the world, so that one of our friends can commit mass atrocities in their camps. That's nice. It's like the overwhelming feeling of this whole week. There's Biden. Listen to this old codger. All right, we'll put him in here. We'll just dip him into one of these tabs at the top here when we get to that point. Back to the first one here. Yeah. So the overwhelming feeling I've had watching the DNC this week was just like, you're genociding people. I don't know how. Maybe, and it's one of those things where it's like you have to stay delusional about what your country is and does and why they exist and how the power works, because power flows in a lot of ways. It hurts people slowly through bureaucracy, such as privatized government, which is what we call health insurance in this country. You'll die from that. They'll just kill you because you're not worth it. It flows through the way private equity is allowed to hoover up all the, that's for my British friends, the hoover is the British word for vacuum. Fucking freaks. And the private equity ghouls that are scooping up the nursing homes, the hospice industries, all that stuff, so that they can drain every bit of money that people have acquired by the end of their lives, especially this cohort of boomers, because they do have quite a bit of money, particularly after they start selling off their houses, because that's another fucking nightmare. Tim Walz did say housing is a human right, which is probably the last time you'll ever hear that from this administration. The last fucking thing these people want to do is build a world where that's actually a reality. That would be very bad for profits, because that would raise worker leverage. If you had a safe place to sleep and live, you might not have to put up with so much abuse from your job. That's what this whole thing is about. When I write my book, one of several that I've been threatening to write, I do want to write a book about the TYT stuff. I think Cenk deserves a starring role in a book about capitalism. I think that would be interesting. I'm thinking about calling it a coward's strength. What I learned about leverage working at the Young Turks. But that's just the working title. I don't know. I've already written like 50, 60,000 words just doing the movie, the film, all the script itself, but a ton of free writing and like these articles. I'm like, I already got like, I mean, I know it's not easy. I'm not going to say it easy, but the hardest part will be getting anybody to care and pay attention. That's usually the part I struggle with. But, capitalism, it'll hurt you slowly. It'll hurt you with bureaucracy. It'll drain you for everything you're worth. It'll give you just enough back so that you could be a consumer and that you can come back and work for them the next day until you get injured. Maybe your body starts to shut down, or your mental capacities. Perhaps I know there's a lot of undiagnosed neurodivergence in this world that leads people into difficult brambly forests that can be tough to escape. I'm talking about myself. Hold on, I got a text. Hold on. Sorry, I got a very important message from someone on my telephone. Well, yeah, so capital, it'll kill you all sorts of ways. But another way that power works is when we scoop up iron ore via colonial extraction. We sell and ship that through a production chain, at which above the production chain floats vampires who make profits off of every single exchange. This requires the sacrifice of workers, the labor of human beings and their bodies and their human potential, their human ability to tighten entropy, to produce more organized states of molecules. Don't worry, it's getting somewhere. And then that production chain leads to crates of bombs being loaded up on ships, because that's what the value is. We've taken raw iron ore and a whole bunch of other chemicals and a bunch of engineering and a bunch of science, and they have to pay for the electricity to power the bomb factories and the roads so that the workers can drive to and fro, back and forth from the bomb factories. And then those bombs get loaded up onto some plane that was designed and built and engineered and administered and probably refueled by American interests, American powers, and foreign government. You know, this planet-striding colossus of the military-industrial complex is not just American companies. These are, you know, but like the defense industry, the amount of money that fucking just free. Talk about handouts. If you're invested in the defense industries and your dividends come in, your stock price goes up, that's just free money. That's just free ass money because of the terror regime that is a global empire allows you. But God knows we shouldn't give any free money to children so that they don't have debt for food. That would be communism. But here's the power. We're still doing. I don't know why none of this is planned. The power flows through, and now it's up in the sky. That bomb has a little thing on the end of it that's going to blow up right at the right moment, and it's programmed, and it has a little impact. And we have really specialized bombs, and some of the bombs have little whoosh, giant Wolverine knives that come out if they really just want to shred a van or something like that. Some of them cause immense pressure destruction, or they're designed to produce this thing where the oxygen around the whole thing is ignited, but also creates these pressure differentials that rupture people's sinus cavities and lungs and stuff like that. And those are also profitable, all flowing out of multiple profitable transactions that the owners got to benefit from. And then the bomb blows up, and little tiny pieces of it, and some big pieces, and the power and the force contained in this marvel of human ingenuity and engineering to destroy flesh and buildings, shreds babies and children and rips their skulls apart and terrorizes those anywhere near it, and leaves people orphaned, leaves people maimed, leaves people wounded. And then we can send snipers in and more bombs to blow up the medical response to the thing. And then we can have conventions where everybody stands around and screams and yells about how wonderful we are as a people and how we look out for each other. It's neighborly. We're neighbors. We're just being good neighbors here in America. That's what it is. Neighbors got to have that good. It's that, like, I'm not turning hard against Kamala and Walz. There's the lefty conversation currently is very animated. A lot are on the staunchly, if you vote for any of the two-party systems, you're participating in the destruction of the thing. I think there's some validity to that notion. I also think there's validity to the idea that we'd be in far worse shape if we had to fight against the Republicans than the Democrats. But the Democrats are a right-wing conservative party. They had on multiple former GOPers. They refused to have any DNC protesters, delegates, like people who aren't just going to get up there and start like throwing orange paint on stuff. This is the big drama this week. Kamala Harris and the DNC were having, being lobbied very aggressively online and offline, and by these much people who are showing up. Sorry, another text came in. As I was saying, so Kamala had to make a decision. I mean, maybe it wasn't formally up to her, but if she said she wanted to have a 4-minute speech from someone of Palestinian origin, they could have done that. It would have been an immensely good thing, sadly, that would amount to what we consider good, as opposed to just her coming out and saying, yeah, I'm going to arrest Joe Biden. The first thing I do is I'm going to arrest all the war criminals in our government, and we're going to prosecute these people for war crimes because of all the people that they've been murdering for the last 10 or 12 months. That's what Kamala's position should be. Because the moment, if her intention is to just do what she said, which is Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel, I'm going to make sure they have all the armor and the weapons that they need. She's going to continue to this genocide. It's better that she's getting in there instead of Biden, in terms of maybe she can be pulled. Maybe the influence, the levers of influence certainly are reorienting around. And in a lot of ways, it's a very good thing. But when it comes to this, but it's such small hope. And the moment that she, unless her intention, trying to get to this thought, unless her intention is to like immediately end it, I think asking her to arrest Joe Biden at the inauguration is a bit high. That's a huge ask for me. A lot of what I do on the show too is I try to think of things in a sort of a more like, what would be the most, like, there's a lot of justice that lives in the inner world of my brain. And also, but I understand that like by making those kinds of statements that seem crazy and totally out there, I'm really just trying to sort of, I don't think I have this kind of influence, but this is something I think about, like that sets a somewhat a pull towards that. So if you think that that's unreasonable, but maybe you'll be pulled a little bit towards like, oh yeah, like killing like 15, 25, 30, 40,000 children. We don't have a full count anymore. They're not able to do an accurate count, but it's an enormous amount. It's way more than 40,000 people total. That number hasn't gone. I've been seeing that number reported for months, and it hasn't gone up. They're massacring people every day. People are dying of starvation. There's a polio outbreak. It's utterly horrifying. But like the idea that, yeah, maybe you should go to prison for war crimes for murdering all these people. Like, we just give these people a pass. That's what's so that's kind of what I'm getting at here with this DNC, is how unbelievably I can't compartmentalize the genocide. There's just some things you can't that just overwhelm everything else. That's why I don't understand how people can be like, look at Joe Biden up there giving that speech. I think I got one. I think he's in one of these, isn't he? Didn't I just Look at this old codger, just war monster. This guy is one of the worst human beings to ever exist. And what the Democrats are doing is just like cheering this on. And you got to also realize the people in this audience this is a Comic-Con. This is like nerd Democrats. If you're a delegate, you're deeply involved in Democratic politics. You probably have a Lawrence O'Donnell t-shirt. You're doing this as like a hobby / like interest. And I know a lot of them are like probably directly involved in their, the corruption scheming that goes on within, like, oh, I have to pay off my local politicians so that I get the favorable stuff. So that like all these there's a lot of business owners that look at their involvement in the political structure as just like simply the cost of doing business and doing investing. And then you form relationships, and then it becomes sort of this industry thing too, where you're just like the blending between media and politics is never not been more obvious. I feel like I'm kind of all over the place with this stuff, but it's just so difficult to sit here. I want to feel some kind of enthusiasm. I know we're not going to get like the leftist revolution that is utterly called for, that everybody deserves, that, and I don't mean a violent, I'm just kind of talking like all of a sudden everything is awesome. Because revolutions don't. There can be bloodless revolutions. It's not impossible. That's a topic that I know I'm very ignorant about. Like I don't want to just sit here and like spew, because there have been instances where revolutions happen, meaning there's like stark radical changes within a few years' time that aren't bloody. But that's not going to happen here. America's the country filled with guns and violence, and any kind of like formal revolution. It's just not feasible. Nobody has the cardio, especially with COVID and stuff. It ain't going to happen. Everybody's too busy. It's called for though. What the hell am I trying to say? So you have to temper your expectations in terms of what you're going to get, how much of your leftism is going. I think so much of what the online fighting between lefties is that there's so many valid perspectives, and people feel in the absence of having access to power, you seek validation, and you kind of look to enforce conformity in order to find validation from people who agree with you. I'm not trying to say that everybody doing activism is cynical, but I think that's what accounts for so much of this conversation, is this dearth of agency that is rightful, and you deserve, and you should feel that. And it's so frustrating, and that's why it's so fucking frustrating having these warmongers up there. And you can't, like, I don't care how good a person is in any other thing. If they have a prison camp in their backyard where they're raping and torturing people and starving them and killing them, and then like pretending from America's perspective, we're not doing it. We're just supplying the ammo and parking the military, the United States Navy, these enormous naval battalions, or whatever the fuck they called, flotillas, cotillion. I love that word, cotillion. Parking those close by so that we protect our buddy who's doing all of that stuff, who has this culture of just like that society, right? Like far right-wing society over there in Israel is just, I mean, my God, the whole world needs to intervene, but America parks itself outside and makes sure, because we're the big bad, that the other big bad that's slightly smaller than us, but like still a big baddie, gets to do all the abuse that they want. And then we go to these conventions and they're screaming and yelling about how wonderful they are and how neighbors look after neighbors. And it just drives me crazy. It just drives me completely nuts. And it's hard to sit with that. You feel insane watching all of it because it's, and not even to mention like the celebration of Joe Biden's long history in government service. There's a really well made, those Frontline PBS documentaries are pretty fun. My dream is to get a girlfriend who's just like, we got a new Frontline. And I'm like, yeah, baby, let's get some popcorn, and you eat too much, you're too fat for sex. That's my dream. What was he saying? Oh, all about Biden getting shoved out, right? But it's, and I was interested in that because I've been paying close attention to this last few months. But then they're getting all his bio stuff, and you get this, and so then you get all this like biography crap about Biden and his childhood and this other stuff. And it's kind of interesting, you know, these important figures in our world who get venerated and who they make these high quality documentaries, these, you know, slow push in on the childhood photo and all this stuff about their, you know, their this and that. But like, it's all erased. I got bored with it because I was like, fuck this guy, man. I want to see the stuff about, you know, Pelosi and the other people and the last like 6 months mainly. But this guy has murdered tens of thousands of children and thousands of non-children and orphaned these people and killed these people. He's doing it. He has the power to stop. He's enthusiastically shown nothing but willingness to send Israel enormous amounts of American treasure and materials, like that power chain I was talking about at the beginning. And I cannot stomach watching the Democrats act like they are not exact. It's not exact, but you're committing genocide. So I guess one of the things I was thinking about, then we'll jump into the tabs because that'll be a little bit. So yeah, we do have this moment here where DNC and man, those people who actually show up to protest, that's another thing I've been feeling a lot lately, is just sort of, you know what, actually, that we'll get to that. I've been feeling a lot lately is just like how much of a like indoor coward I am. I'm not out doing any of this stuff. I would have a very difficult time. I don't have money. I mean, I have to sort out a lot of things in my life currently, and before I'm able to travel around the country and scream and yell at people. I'm never going to be doing that. I have been to some marches and stuff. I go to the I have sensory and noise problems that's severely limiting to just like being out in the world for more than a couple hours just fries my head, and I need to be in a very controlled space. So like probably only going to be able to podcast and do video editing and maybe go on and be a guest on someone's show eventually. That's more or less what I'm saying. Not that I think my influence is what's needed or missing from here. I don't know. It's a strange thing trying to be an entertaining / making points about politics. I mean, I guess that's what a podcast is, I suppose. But mostly it's just me barfing my experience of ingesting the internet back into a microphone and into a camera. And that's more or less what the show is about. But I mean, all podcasts, kind of. Nah, and that's not quite fair. Some of them are well produced, but I have to respect all these people that show up and actually put their lives on the line, especially the ones that go up to the cops, that risk getting arrested, that get arrested, that are, you know, and there's like legal apparatuses on the left that help out with that. So there's lawyers that are around that do that work. It's a large, complex thing, and that's good. And I just feel so much respect for the people who actually, you know, show up and are screaming and yelling, because there's nothing else until this is over. There's nothing else. It's so overwhelmingly horrifying. And I think that's what I'm sort of thinking about is like the Democrats are genocidal. They are a genocidal party. The Democratic Party in the United States of America, thanks to Joe Biden, and you could probably easily argue it goes way back to the origins of the country. I know they weren't, but I mean, the entire time this country was a genocidal project, no matter what party labels we use. But the Democrats are violent and genocidal, and genocide requires complicity and media obfuscation. The way that all the headlines are written to use passive voice when it's Gazans killed, but if it's Israelis killed, they write the headlines to, you know, those are very, very impactful. They are contributing to genocide. The weak interviews you see on the Sunday talk shows, the sort of ways that the narrow bandwidth within which they're allowed to question power or push back on bullshit answers, like the Jake Tappers of the world, for instance, and those types. That's all contributing to genocide. All these flapping seals smacking their seal flippers back and forth. Well, back and forth together, not back and forth would be. Can you flap back and forth? Okay, sorry. All right, sorry, glitched out. But all these barking seals at the DNC. All these barking seals at the DNC, these people in the audience that are just venerating these folks, they're upholding their delusion. They're upholding this world where they live, where the genocide doesn't rise to their level of consciousness, or it does and they don't care. And that's a major part of it. Americans are incredibly conditioned to just ignore especially if it's brown people somewhere far away. This is an incredibly racist thing. And the Harris decision and the DNC's decision to not platform, to not put a Palestinian American on stage is a racist decision. Absolutely. There's no question about it. And Americans are immensely conditioned to not care if other people are being hurt. We don't care that our own children are being slaughtered in schools. A lot of people do. I'm not saying if you have strong feelings about it, you don't care. I'm saying that it still happens. As a collective, as a society, we do not care. It still happens. It happens a lot. I don't know what the rate of school shootings is. If it's trending down, let's hope it is. I have no idea. But it happens. We're not stopping it. The thing you do if you care is you stop it. Not one more child should have to live in fear at school. It's not just the victims, the acute victims of the, people who get shot and that, but it's all of them. They dose every single child with government violence goons who simulate shootings. They train them to deal with being shot. That was our response to kids getting shot, is we're going to do drills so they can practice. We don't care. We don't care about our own kids in this country. We don't. Unless we stopped it. Until we stop it, I will then say we do care, but we don't care. It hurts. It's painful for a lot of people, obviously. It's soul damaging, but it's so overwhelming that we have to just tell ourselves, weave these delusional storylines. And part of that includes venerating these people. They love Joe. A lot of hearts on screen. So it's such a horror watching this whole Democratic convention going on with like these guys. And I'm saying like they have an opportunity to not label themselves a genocidal party, but that's exactly what they are. And unless you aggressively go after accountability for people who have done it, and then more than likely, I mean, let's hope that there's enough political pressure. And Kamala is of a different generation than Biden, and it is far better that we have the energy shift that happened when Biden dropped out. I think that's just a huge part of it. It's like the King of Rohan from Lord of the Rings, the old guy that was under the spell, and then all of a sudden he goes, it's like the spell was lifted. Not a perfect metaphor, but so I'm rooting against the Republicans. That's the only. I wish I could feel some enthusiasm even about Tim Walz. I'm really glad that I was trying to get people on Twitter to use the slogan "It's Walz y'alls." I thought that would be a great one. Nobody listened to me, of course. But as far as like a progressive sensibilities go, it's amazing that they chose him. He was clearly the best choice of the top candidates, and you don't expect Democrats to make the right choice this frequently. It's happened more than once in the last few months or last month, and that's amazing because. But largely a lot of it, and much of what this whole Democratic convention has shown to me is like we were so depressed by Biden. We were so in the dumps with having this old, decrepit, just like dead energy. Everybody was just like, God, it was like having fluorescent lights on at a party. And then they changed and they turned off the fluorescent lights and they kicked on the ball with the colors, the laser ball, and it spins like, like R2-D2's great-great-grandparents. And it goes, boo-boo-boo-boo-boo, and then like little red lights and maybe like some nice track lighting. And we have a much better environment. Hope is back. Enthusiasm is back. People are raring to go. The polls are showing a tremendous shift towards Kamala against Donald Trump. It's fast. It's really fun. Like, so my whole journey through this entire world, or through my story, is ambiently conservative upbringing with my conservative dad, although politics wasn't like a dominant thing in our world. Independent brain thinking, independent thinking teenager, atheist at a young age, kind of just, but not that tuned in. Not that, I would have called myself a liberal probably. Got into the Young Turks long time ago, 2007 or 8. So like I would have then said I was a progressive. I wouldn't shy away from the label progressive. The labels get stupid. I think that they're getting obsessed with these labels are ridiculous. But eventually pushing myself from sort of standard boilerplate, low information American conservative, but somewhat independent thinking. I have a pretty strong bullshit detector. I have a very fast eye roll reflex, and leading me to end up becoming quite radicalized towards labor rights and labor movement from working for the Young Turks, having to start a union there in order to try to get health insurance for myself and paid days off, which I wasn't getting. If you're not familiar with my show, there's a lot of content about that. We've got a little bit more about that later. And also working for Jimmy Dore was somewhat radicalizing, like just my last years of having to have jobs in the last few years. The reasons my woodworking job where both my wrists are wrecked from vibrating tools, no health insurance of that company, nothing, like cheap shit pay. And just so now I'm staunchly anti-capitalist, and that's more the phrasing that I'm comfortable with. It's, but again, the labels are messy, but so I would love to experience this energy that the Democrats and the liberals are so fired up about. It is exciting, because the thing about what the left is doing, and I think especially with online leftists and Twitter leftists and media podcasting lefties, and this whole conversation that's constantly happening, of which I would love to make a part of my career. I'm also sort of trying to I might be announcing a new podcast of a whole different topic one of these days, so stay tuned for that. But there's a lot of so many angles of attitude. Isn't that a flight word? They use the word attitude, and it doesn't mean being kind of bitchy about stuff. It just means, right? Isn't that a thing? Angles of attack. But there's multiple ways to sort of try to climb this mountain to what am I trying to be all metaphoric for? But a huge thing that I think lefties could do better about, or could do with more intention and more upfront disclosure as part of the intention, is persuade liberals and conservatives to become lefties, basically. Now, I'm not saying you have to apply the label to yourself, but most people who are on the left are former liberals, former conservative types, right? I would say I'm former both of those in a sense. I would have never have called myself a conservative, but like I said, I identified with my dad's Reagan, fuck the Democrats, but that was as a kid. And I'm white passing, so I've been around, with my German and Swedish roots and English blood. Makes people think I'm white here in this country. Especially growing up in the Midwest, I've been in a lot of those spaces and seen, man, but don't get me started on masculinity. Oof. I am the king of masculinity, motherfucker. No, it's so exhausting. Men are performing for each other because they have to try to fit this role of what the society has deemed masculine is acceptable. Okay, that's enough. We can get into that another time. But I've seen it all. I mean, I think that it's, instead of just scolding people for voting, I think vote shaming is an incredibly stupid, counterproductive thing to do. I don't think anybody's achieved any. I'm not persuaded that that we're better off without the Democrats. Let me start over. And I'm not persuaded that the Trumps aren't the MAGA movement, the right-wing fascism isn't a huge threat. I think that there's substantive differences in the ways the Democrats function in the executive state or executive branch versus the Republicans. One of the big ones, two of the big buckets there are appointments to the administrative agencies like Lena Khan and the at the FTC. I want to say FTC, maybe it's SE. Now I feel like an idiot if I got that wrong. The NLRB appointments and such like that. Those are big deals. Those are important differences in terms of the way workers are able to assemble in the kind of abuses that are allowed from our government. It's very unfortunate that, they just filed a lawsuit against this software thing that all the real estate companies use to crank up prices. It's this collusion thing. You're not going to get that under a Republican appointee. They're talking, that's probably amounts to billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars if successful. It's a very slow, lumbering process, unfortunately, but that's important. And the other bucket is the judges and the judicial appointments. The Republican appointees are often and frequently like putting up firewalls to legislation that gets passed. So because things get passed, or bills get passed, or small local initiatives get passed, and judges can overrule them. And then that sends it to the appeals process. But then it ultimately winds up at the Supreme Court, which is completely, 5 of the 6 conservative justices on there were appointed by someone who lost a popular vote for the presidential election. They don't have a mandate. It's disgusting. And so we have these right-wing freaks in incredible amounts of power at every stage of it. So it is important. It is different. And I wish I could feel some enthusiasm for what's going on here, but that even if the genocide weren't happening, my disposition is probably unlikely to get all worked up about the politics of it. But I can phase back to the time of my life when I would have. So I can kind of still get there. Not that that's like I'm trying to return to home to feel it again, but I can inhabit it. That's part of my hyper empathy from what I would describe when I get around to writing my book about my autistic profile and how whatever. That's another one of the books I want to write. So it's quite the way that a lot of the people in this audience, let's say, or just the people who are getting enthusiastic about it, who are never going to see the world through the eyes of like a leftist person who sees it as this colonial project and the centuries long scam of using violence to steal and violence to hold and violence to coerce people to being workers. Stuff I talk about a lot over and over, and will continue to do so. Does Biden think he's holding his wife's hand right there? Wouldn't that be funny? He's like, Jill, you're short. Jill, how did it? So I think but as part of my intentional project of persuading liberals is I think it's a good and a healthy starting point to validate a lot of the ways that these people engage their reality. The reality that is generated by the media they consume, that is generated because there's a core source reality that we all like receive information from in the form of photons and sound waves. And then it gets interpreted through our photon and sound waves interpreter. And then that's the reality to which you respond. You don't actually understand core reality. You only understand the version of it that has been interpreted by your reality interpreter. That's what your brain in your head is. A human brain and head. You can also include the sensitive skin tissues. It's not just the below. You're receiving information from your world wherever you're able to detect it. But people are. It's just a big sensory organ. You just have all these abilities to just like pull stuff in. And then you add in the complexities of consciousness and the brain and all that stuff and social connections and such and such. So and it's absolutely true that a lot of Democrats, or a lot of people who identify or are low information, see their worlds, they see their women being jailed for miscarriages and women being, feared in red states where they're increasingly looking to try to get rid of no-fault divorce and get rid of contraception and criminalize pregnancy, all this madness of American right-wing fascistic control over people. That's a genuinely terrifying thing. And for Biden to step down and a woman to step forward and to make the case, I tweeted out, I don't have it ready. It wasn't planning. I'm already like a 40-minute fucking name, man. There's so much more to this podcast to do. Biden, so what a wonderful thing to release that enthusiasm and that ability and that feeling that, oh my God, maybe we have a chance of not going down a world where Donald Trump gets to make decisions about your vaginas. How horrifying is that? And they might not conceptualize the foreign, it's easy enough for them to say foreign policy, whatever. I can go cheer for Kamala and for Tim and for everybody else speaking up on that stage and get involved in this audience and be excited about this movement. What they would want us to think is a movement. They're just really trying to maintain, the profit control centers. That's all any of it really ever is. Progress is only allowed at a rate at which profit makers can adjust their profit making. That's the only thing the Democrats do. That's their job. Titrate progress to the degree that it doesn't happen so fast that the people who make money off of it can't keep making money off of it. That's all it is. But like, it's a completely valid and wonderful thing for people who wouldn't call themselves lefties, might even be suspicious of the concepts that they might hear about, to see some hope and a reason to stand up and get involved and get excited about voting for Kamala. And then this is the last thing I'll say is like the shit lib in me that I can kind of re-inhabit. I love the idea that Donald Trump is having this psychological, like narcissistic meltdown, and he's going to do it publicly, and that he's getting the shit kicked out of him by a black lady. That's awesome. That's fucking great. Like, it's really like, I love seeing that. I want to be enthusiastic about that. If you know, like, the symbology is just on the nose. I mean, and especially Trump, man, like what a weirdly like exact person for America, like the microcosm of like the darkest parts of our character, which I would say are the ascendant parts, or ascended, like the dominant ones. The ones that make it so that we did the genocides is foundational to the country, all the racism, all the terror society, the terror state that we've been living in for so long. America was a terror state with the way it treated its black citizens and black people and brown people of all colors and stuff. And like I was reading up on the lynchings and stuff, and man, it's just so overwhelming. It's so overwhelmingly horrifying. How many thousands? The only by documented, it was like somewhere around 5,000 documented lynchings in a period of about 80 years, and maybe, yeah. So anyway, it's a fascinating topic, but it's also super hard to get into because it's so depressing. But and again, that's the thing, is like, it's so bad we prefer the delusion. It's easier to not just address the pain than it is to turn and look at the pain. And so I want to validate that for a lot of liberals, like being enthusiastic and being excited about Tim Walz. I want to be excited about Tim Walz. I have issues with, like, I understand the critique of him as the governor of Minnesota, releasing National Guard on protesters. Like, he's only going to be a tool of the empire. Let's not act like, but as far as what politics would have allowed 4, 8, 12 years ago, having that guy in the vice presidency as a somewhat obscure governor who had been building a pretty good, career in Minnesota and stuff, and done good stuff for that state. By the low standards that we have for politicians, it's a great thing that he's up there with the talents that he has. And it's fun watching JD Vance. I got a bunch of JD Vance stuff to go through right here. So I guess I don't know if you really know what I'm getting at so much, but I feel that we have a better shot of moving the needle towards the lefty positions, because we want to invite you into our chaotic powerlessness. That's what I'm trying to do. And that's a difficult thing to ask you to come over from. But I think that liberals and conservatives who might not have, I've been paying attention to politics since I was like 14, 13 for a long time. That means 30 years. It's crazy that that's how old I am. And worked in online media, moved to LA in 2013 to work for the Young Turks. Had a lot to do with the Jimmy Dore show up through 2016. Not after that, but yeah. And then back at the Young Turks, started a union, helped start the union there. That whole thing with my document. And so like, this is like a thing I've been at, not to mention my own kind of personal nightmarish sort of stuff with undiagnosed autism and et cetera, et cetera. Why am I doing my own bio right now? But, so even though I know I'm very ignorant on a lot of this stuff, I do feel like there's a lot of, I might have a chance of helping people sort of get their heads around the way these power systems work and the way these power structures work, and that it's not necessarily a bad thing for people who are more low information to be enthusiastic about about the chances of defeating the Republicans and about getting someone like Kamala and watching Trump. Like, the debate's going to be fun and awesome. I'm still going to be like, she's a fucking war criminal. But having this Trumpian, this figure just be bitch slapped around by, like, and Kamala's, she was good in the debates. Like, she's going to have, like, at least, and this is within the rubric of what we're allowed to participate in as consumers. We get entertainment products out of our politics. That's why we have permanent campaigns. It's incredibly profitable for the news stations that run all the ads. It's profitable for the consultants that place all those ads and get paid by these campaigns. It's an industry. It's a huge, gross, disgusting, ugly industry, but it will be entertaining watching Trump get melt down and get completely, like, shellacked by a black woman who's going to fuck him up at the debate. And Tim Walz versus JD Vance at their debate will be entertaining and worth making clips and videos about too. But ultimately, to wrap it up, I am of multiple minds in all of this, but I cannot get past the fact that these people have the power to stop this genocide. It is every bit as abhorrent as the lynchings in America in terms of like our tolerance for the most depraved actions of people that we associate with. You know, we'll go back to the beginning here. I just got it running on slow motion. Jamie Harrison, that dude's so annoying. He just seems like such a stupid person, at least via Twitter. It's probably on purpose. I like the wide shots. So it is, it's just a weird horror show, this whole thing. So that said, let's jump into some of the stuff. You already saw a little bit of the clips that I had. Let's see. I don't really have any. We do have a little TYT talk at the end, just a preview. I am doing an updated thing about my receipts. This is not a fully finished one, but yeah, I've got some words about doing a non-biased demonstration. I do like to point people to the articles. I think if you're not, you know, a little skeptical about my whole deal, if you don't want me to be your primary source for information, a great starting point is the 4 articles: Huffington Post, Indies Times, The New Republic, and Politico. So I'm always including these links. And yeah, I was also on the Letter Hack and the Vanguard, so look for those interviews too. But yeah, this is going to be just sort of a straight up, yo, here's my hours. Let me just point this one out. See, I can't help myself here. Can I zoom in? Oh yeah, this is a good spot. Look, I did a little work here in OBS, the screen recording software, the streaming and stream recording. So get ready for this. You get excited? Boom! Look at that. I changed it so the edit can be easier and we can get closer to the stuff. I might be able to zoom that. Yeah. Look, now it's on full screen. That's awesome. Let me try something. Visual joke. Wait, no, see, that didn't work. I was trying to push against the border. Sorry, I fucking bent my wrist too much. Oh, that's gonna be great. Can't do anything. Can't fucking defend myself or. Okay. Yeah. All right. So yeah, this is the stuff. This is the thing I wanted to zoom in on. This is like all my hours worked. Like I said, I got all the goddamn receipts, man. Like people putting out, doing this stuff I'm doing with the Young Turks, coming forward and making a big stink about it. To be clear, the 3 ethical boundaries that I am talking about are the union busting itself, the lie that the union originated as a ploy by Nancy Pelosi and Cenk's political opponents, and the third one, which is what I've been making a stink about most lately, is my employment conditions. Classifying someone as an independent contractor and then as part-time while they work full-time hours in order so that they don't get benefits from you is a deeply unethical and shady at best. I don't even think shady is an appropriate term, but it's a deeply, deeply unethical thing to do to somebody. And it's an incredibly good way to get your people to want to unionize. And so I'm presenting this as a contrast to the official TYT narrative of how the union started, which is that we were tricked into unionizing by Cenk's political opponents. So the one I wanted to dial in on here, and thus I have all this paperwork, and TYT has all this paperwork. People want to, I'm not that I'm getting a ton of messages or something, but like if people think I'm making this up and just coming out with like bullshit that's not true, that I would be exposing myself to so much civil, possibly criminal liability. I think if you forge documents, that's a criminal type of like thing, right? Like I'm not making any of this documents up. This data all comes from Gusto records and paid invoices. There's even, you know, samples of those down here, you know, so I have like, I'm not showing every single one of them, but I am showing like, if for instance, this is one here where if I were paid for these days I took off, this is in May. Right. By this point, I'm working 6 months in full-time as a video editor with people who are classified as full-time employees, taking the position of someone who was classified as a full-time employee. And I was classified during this point here as an independent contractor. So had I been paid for Christmas Day, New Year's Day, the information would show up here in this invoice, right? And this is a holiday one. These are 6 holidays I took off that I didn't get paid for. So I'm just showing that I'm proving, yeah, I didn't get that money. That week's pay was 200 and, you know, fuck, oh God, I cornered myself. 286 to 38. Why am I 38 plus 3? 50 cents. 30, 40, 60, 60. What is 8 plus 61? $286.61. Because I only worked 12.5 standard hours and 0.5 overtime hours. By the way, only employees were supposed to get overtime. But as I prove in one of these, I was paid overtime like most of the time. So the vast majority, like 90+% of the time I got overtime. Because there was lots of days where I had to stay late and work a little extra, which is what they expected of every video editor, because it's a and this is fair. Actually, I say it right here. You know, you never knew. There was occasions, it's news, like, and there might be an issue with something, and that if you can't just like stop and go home when you're not done editing the day's clips out, that would be really bad. So they pay overtime, which they should. That's why I got overtime, because I was not an independent contractor, is what I'm arguing. But I wanted to just show this, like, and then we got to move on. I can't. I've been working so hard on this story here because I got to make sure everything's correct. But like, these hours, if you dial in, let's try to zoom it up here. Is that getting, oh God. Oh, fuck. Great. Yeah, that doesn't get much bigger. Edit. These hours. Remember, by this point, I'm 7 months in. I bitch and moan the whole time. I finally get a meeting with HR in May. They decide to change me from being an independent contractor. You know, I think they heard me. I said, I'm worried about the company and I'm worried about myself. You're doing, this is really crazy that you're doing this. You're taking this risk to yourselves that this might get out. Why would you do this to some? And also, like, can I get paid like the other? Can I get health insurance? Can I get, like, that was the meeting I had with HR. They answered it with, yeah, well, we'll fix it. We'll make it so that you're now an employee, but we're not going to call you a full-time employee. We're going to call you a part-time temporary employee. So we're going to classify you differently. And their threshold for part-time is 30 hours, which is not highlighted in this one, but here. I'm moving my mouse around it. It says 30 hours per week, right? That's from one of the offer letters. And so during a time in which both of these jobs, I was called part-time, classifications, I mean, if you look at the average hours per day, we got 7.86. And now remember, 6 hours on average indicates a 30-hour week. 8 hours on average, come on, smart person, 40-hour week. You get what I'm saying? So 7.86 is close to 8, obviously. So here's the hours I worked while they called me part-time. No benefits from this. Actually, that's not totally fair. I did get a sick accrual that I never used and that they zeroed out when they changed my benefit to this time, to the part-time, permanent, part-time regular. So here's what part-time hours means to Cenk Uygur. 7.86, 9.02, 8.5, 7.87, 8.37, 8.33, 8.05, 8.09, 7.51, 8.17 on average. And that is, that's what those are full-time. Those are 40+ hours easily. Yet they called me part-time and I didn't get benefits. We had already started the organizing process. It began kind of around the end, around here, April, May. That's when I was like, fuck this shit, man. I got to do something about this. And that's when I sort of was like mentally getting ready to start doing it. And I kind of plotted to wake up the union. There'd already been an effort a year prior. And so I'm asking people to assess my credibility and eventually be able to kind of determine if they agree that Cenk's story that workers were manipulated into unionizing by his political opponents to harm his 2019 congressional campaign is true, or if it was unsatisfactory and exploitative working conditions that drove the union. Which of those narratives is true? That's the question I'm asking people to decide for themselves. So, all right, let's get going. Let's do the podcast. You guys ready for a podcast? God damn it. Okay. So, DNC, we are going to kind of move through these somewhat quickly, I think. I mean, at least that's the aspiration right now. How's the graphic looking? That's looking good. I like this new one. I also did another square one. I don't think it's up right. Can we see it? Oh, where did it go? Yeah, so that's another one. That'll be fun. I gotta just kind of, I need to get a little of the organizing done with this stuff, but making progress. Good stuff. Glad to see it. Yeah, it looks better with the full screen. Get rid of those stupid shrimp. They're not even on right now anyway. So I kind of thought people would be big fans of the Shrimp Squad. I think eventually maybe, but it's also just kind of gross, right? Breakthrough news at the DNC. Let me just get my head around the dates of the final. Okay, the 21st is Wednesday. So on Wednesday, a lot of these DNC types, these are all mostly, pretty connected people. There's a lot of super wealthy in these buildings, a lot of security, obviously, a lot of the delegates throughout the world. It's Democratic Party's this massive coalition, but they were on their way out, and these people, there were protesters reading the names of dead Palestinian children. And then this made these people feel somewhat uncomfortable. And you know what you do when you feel uncomfortable? You hide, especially if you live in a comfort supremacy like America. You don't want to hear about all the dead kids that you're supporting the murder of by not calling for the end of it. But here, let's watch.
Say it again. Say it again. Mock them again. Mock the children again. Do it again. Do it again.
18 years old.
That guy's making fun of it. The first lady made this face. Like, let's just watch her. And she sort of sticks her tongue out and goes like that. This dude, though, if anybody's asking for an internet pile-on, this guy's making fun of him for saying 13 years old. It's just like, fuck you, man.
Mock them again. Mock the children again. Do it again. Do it again.
18 years old. 18 years old. Yusuf Hasan. 18 years old.
Don't make me listen, no.
Turn around and join the uncommitted delegates in the protest.
Fingers in their ears. It really is just like la 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 la. They're just nope, won't do it. Like at least own it. At least own that you don't care. Just say that. Don't act like you don't want to hear it. I mean, I have sensory problems with my ears too, so I understand. I that's one among the reasons. Here we go with my stupid autism diversions. But like, I was always a guy that would put his ears in his fingers for fire trucks because it was so painful and overwhelming. And I felt embarrassed because I'm a big, strong, tough guy my whole life, but I'd be like, oh my God. And then when I learned what autism was, and I was like, oh, I get it now. Okay, that's fine. Adam McKay, I was going to do a Photoshop to fix this for him. All you got to do is blur the background, man. Sorry. I don't know if Adam McKay is the one that put this together, but Zombie Panther 2, he's the director of Don't Look Up, co-written with David Sirota, and he's done a bunch of documentaries. He's a pretty prominent guy. Quite a nice career. Seems like a really good dude. He posted this. It says it's yellow text on kind of a green fake grass looking back or some sort of textured green background. If you support a party that openly funds and supports the mass killing of women, children, journalists, aid workers, and doctors, pushes for extreme border policy and family separation, doesn't even have universal health care in their party platform, refuses to declare a climate emergency, limit federal oil drilling leases, or stop taking billions in dark money, routinely votes for the largest military budget in human history while schools, roads, and bridges crumble, cancels primaries, and fights to keep non-party candidates off the general ballot, you may call yourself a Dem or a liberal, but by any world or modern history standard, you are 100% a full-on right-winger. And in many countries, you'd even be considered an extremist. So right the fuck on, man. Like, that's where we are with the Democrats. Don't, Nancy Pelosi, still one of the most powerful people in the world. She kind of engineered getting rid of a president. That means you're powerful. And she got that good NVIDIA stock. Why would you be stock trading in your fucking 80s? I'm for forced retirement if you're rich enough. Like I'm for like, oh, you got $20 million, you got to go away now. You want to come back? Give it all away. Get back to $19 million. I would actually make that number lower, but it's just crazy to be like 80 something and have $100 million and be like, I need more. Because it's okay. Whatever. I'm getting off the rails. Nancy Pelosi's favorite person to quote is Ronald Reagan. We've had a decade, and that's partially what the shift to the Gen X leaders now, the Harris and Tim Walz, who are both around 60. That at least is hopefully a departure from quoting Ronald Reagan. Joe Biden is also an enormously flattering speaker about Ronald Reagan and his friendship with all the right-wing Republicans. And, you know, he's born before Israel was created, by the way. He's older than Israel. So, like, the Democrats are a right-wing party. And if we're going to simplify American, you know, political, you see these charts a lot on the internet. You'll see, like, the kind of horizontal line, the center, the right, the left. Sorry if it's not on screen sometimes. Is it left, right? No, I'm getting all tripped up. Democrats are in the right. They're center right. They're not. And in fact, they just recently, too, took. Did I put it over here? Let's find it. Let's find it up here. And then we'll get rid of this. They have removed abolishing the death penalty from their party platform. As this person, Jessica Schulb, writes on Twitter, Jessica Schulberg, this is the first time since 2012 the platform doesn't call for abolition, and the first time since 2004 there's no mention of the death penalty at all. So they're going to just, you know, kill people by the government. I think it's a grisly horror. I believe in justice, and I understand the feeling of wanting to, like, affect justice via killing somebody. But when you have, I'm saying that because it's an emotional response, a lot of people can probably relate to that with certain violations. You know, if you kill a bunch of people, we say you got to die. That's not necessarily unreasonable in terms of whether the person deserves that. However, it's also like, that's an emotional assessment. And that's why you shouldn't have vigilante justice and vigilante mobs forming, for instance. And it's also why, like, having the government use its judiciousness and its authority to slowly go through a process where it eventually goes and just deliberately just fucking offs somebody is ghastly, especially since it's ghastly to kill guilty people, let alone the very real, and it happens constantly, fact that you're never going to be 100% confident you're killing only guilty people. We shouldn't do that either, but we also kill a lot of innocent people. Imagine that's your life. All this cosmic wonder, the infinite trillions and infinite trillions, infinite thousands. See, that's the same as infinite trillions. Kind of crazy, huh? Of the universe produces you in this amazing concretion of molecules and energy and consciousness, and your country scoops you up. A violence goon puts you in a cage, and no matter how much you say I didn't kill, I didn't do what you think I did, you end up being hung or killed, injected with some chemical that causes your death. And that's the lot you get because you live in a society like America. Just atrocious. And so this is a horrible signal. This indicates, and we also saw some more of it too at the DNC, that the Democrats are not necessarily, like, the point is that they can't turn left because left criticizes power, and their whole thing is holding on to power. You could make a practical argument that some of these decisions and some of the ways they're operating their campaign is so that they can win in November. I think there's a reasonable, like, position somewhere in there. I'm not saying that this is that. I'm just saying that, like, some of the compromise, like the way Kamala's speech was sort of boilerplate nonsense, it was ultimately pretty forgettable. I was watching the Majority Report coverage. I want to say Matt Lex said it, but someone said this was a do no harm speech. Like, she wasn't trying for anything, wasn't trying to make any big waves. She just hit the points. I didn't like the way she addressed the Israel situation, but and the argument is they're looking to reach a different audience that's going to be making up their minds about who they're going to vote for, not someone like you or me, or, you know, if I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're probably somewhere on the left. But this shows that the Democrats are a welcoming refuge for Republicans. Trump made such a big splash in his takeover of the Republican Party that, first of all, the fact that he fit in exactly with where they are, he just is too stupid to not hide it the way they were before. And he has this otherworldly necromancer charisma thing, this con man power that truly is amazing. He's got us all impersonating him when we say his words. We become Trump whenever we see his words and speak them into a microphone. That's power. I mean, that's a sense of like societal like thing, but he's such a disgusting human. No wonder, you know, he's given the only 2 jobs that guy's qualified for is fucking CEO and president. That's insane. What the fuck? But that also pushed a lot of Republicans away who were offended by it, whose sensibilities were disturbed, and they wanted, and the place that they had to run was right to their right-wing buddies. It didn't take much. And when I say right-wing buddies, I mean Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, these corporate ghouls, all these people that operate within the Democratic Party and the whole consultancy apparatus that's there, the Rick Wilsons, the Lincoln Project, the Never Trumpers, that's the resource. Like if the Democratic Party is a plant and the lefties are a light source trying to like say, we want you to come this way because we're a 2-party system until we can get a parliamentary system and get a different multiple coalition building up that occurs in like, you know, other countries where they have parliamentary systems, which we're not going to do anytime soon. The Democrats are allergic to our light, but they want to absorb that light from the right, from their right, so that they're a welcome. I don't know if that plant metaphor worked. I actually don't think it did, but they're going to lean towards who they have common cause with. They might argue with the Rick, you know, like the former Republicans, the Never Trumpers, the current Republicans. That doesn't mean they're former conservatives. They find another, they just move over to the conservative side of the political spectrum that's okay with black people sending bombs to kill people. The Democrats, right? So there's the nutrient exchange. That's why, like Chuck Schumer famously referred to the Baileys, which is like a family he made up in his brain to justify why he had policies and stuff. All right, we got to keep moving. I'm just I'm losing the thread here. We got to get going. So DNC stuff. This I haven't watched. This is someone wrote a tweet. President Pat wrote a tweet. My favorite roll call memory is Larry Sanders, Bernie Sanders' brother, who casted his vote for his brother during the 2016 Democratic National Convention. Let's click play and watch it.
I want to bring before this convention the names of our parents, Eli Sanders and Dorothy Glassberg Sanders.
That's the same face I make when my brothers talk. I go, oh man, I can't believe that's my fucking brother. Jesus. He does sound like him though. I am Bernie's brother. That's me. He's a little bit different. He's not quite there. This is Bernie. Bernie sounds like this.
They did not have easy lives.
Boys, we had only 1 stick and 2. No, it's funnier if you do. We had 2 sticks and 1 large hoop with which to keep the hoop going down the street across the horse poop with 2 sticks. That's
he makes them proud of their son and his accomplishments. They loved him.
Oh, he's tearing up. He's getting sweetie. He's getting sweetie feelings. Look at this guy. He's not a real man. Men don't cry. Men are supposed to bottle it up until they turn to violence and ultimately a lonely death. That's what men do. This is very actually quite sweet. He's crying about it. I want my brothers to cry about me. What if I had like a voodoo doll of my brothers and I just start stabbing them in the tear ducts?
Democrats.
Great. Now I'm feeling emotions.
They loved the New Deal of Franklin Roosevelt, and we'd be especially proud that Bernard is renewing that vision. It is with enormous pride that I cast my vote for Bernie Sanders.
Oh, I'm getting teary-eyed now. Look at him. He can't. He doesn't want to cry either.
Democrats
Thank you.
abroad.
Jane, Not me, Jane. I wish that was a slogan.
You have cast 7 votes for Secretary.
Ah, lady, you're butting in on him. Come on, give the guy a chance. We're all having a little sniffle here. What are you moving it on for? I know you got a schedule, but you read the room.
You have cast 7 votes for Secretary Clinton.
He's out there screaming, Bernie.
And 10 votes for Senator Sanders.
That's funny. What if she shot him in the face with a t-shirt cannon because she thought it would be like a Kleenex? Why wouldn't it be her job to do that? Yeah, that's cute. He cries for his brother. That is sweet. I felt my emotions going too. I love my brothers. I hope we all die of old age. One of us is going to die first, and then someone will be second, and then there'll be a final one, and we'll be like, oh, yeah, there's my old shitty brothers. Look at that. There they are, old and dead. I'm old and dead too, but I'm still alive. That's how brothers, that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Maybe someday we'll be called off to war where we'll all die and our mom will feel sad, and then they'll make a movie about it. And then people will pay money, and the movie will make a lot of money for some rich guy. The best you could hope for in America. All right, next one. A very good. Sorry, I can't. Okay, come on. Oh, generational talent. The only person better than this is Amy Klobuchar, but no, this is Kathy Hochul, New York Governor Kathy Hochul. I don't have anything really picked out here. I just kind of clicked through it. Let's listen to her at the speech. This is from night 1.
New York's motto is Excelsior, ever upward. And Trump takes us ever downward. Because
and Trump takes us ever down. This is like a librarian, like talking to a bunch of kids, and then like the kids go home and have nightmares. This lady, that's who Kathy Hochul is. But what a talent! I know there's a whole bunch of New York politics is absolutely wild. Very conservative. Andrew Cuomo had like a whole contingency of Democrats, quote unquote, that were all just like hardcore Republican conservative types. Then yeah, I don't know if you're in there, if you're over there, I'm sure I'm getting it wrong, but I know there's a lot of bullshit that went on in the New York political scene, and still does. They're the mayor of New York, you know, like this is, they always have
President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Kamala.
Thank you, Costco, for not raising your prices on the $1.50 hot dogs. Next one. Shawn Fain, big moment. This guy came cooking. He came hot and strong, and another one of those guys that you hear possible presidential material maybe because of the the elevation of his profile as a very strong union leader, who gets a lot of press, who's taken on a much more combative approach towards the billionaire class and the owner class, and he says a lot of things that is important for the labor movement. These are difficult jobs, difficult positions to be in, I would assume, because of the public relations aspect, because of the ways that words get misinterpreted, and because you're often having to make decisions that might upset certain constituencies. There's a debate currently with whether Sean O'Brien, the Teamsters president who spoke at the RNC, should have done that, and the DNC turned their back on him, I guess, which arguably is a poor choice to make, maybe. I don't know. But like at this level, though, when people are starting to throw your name out there for possible presidential candidate, like Sarah Nelson of the Flight Attendants Union, who I also think is a lot of juice in her, in that sense. She's a very compelling speaker, too. That's a power. That's a big power here. There's a lot of influence. Although I think we're looking at, and again, this is not a prediction, but if Kamala comes through with a big win, it's gonna, I'm not trying to say who the hell knows where things are going to go in 4 years. I think there's going to be climate disasters, probably some sort of war escalations. It's going to be really bad. But let's just say 8 years of Kamala, Tim Walz is only 68 by that point. Presumably he'll be up next, and since we're kind of a royalty system here, then we got, let's say 8 years of Tim Walz. The window might be closing on getting one of these union leaders in there. Let's just say, I mean, I'm not saying I hope or want or predict that. That's just one of the ways it rolls out. When we're contrasting Biden to a generic group, I'd be like, I mean, it's good to be like, yo, let's get one of these union people in charge of the country. That'd be fucking amazing. And he should still run, though. I'm still pushing. I would still love to see union, these type, like a challenger. We should always be primarying these people. There's far too few resources for mounting successful primary campaigns. That's one of the ways that the power systems hold on to it, you know, maintains itself. But anyway, that's a long lead up just to listen to this part. Let's just watch it.
In the words of the great American poet, Nellie, it's getting hot in here.
A little awkward. Should have done more open mics. But yes, he was referring to the Hulk Hogan ripping his shirt off. Now, he just unbuttoned a jacket and took off a jacket while quoting one of the American poets. I was trying to think, Mary Wollstone Nellie. I was trying to think of older ones that are like writers. Keats? I was attempting to build a portmanteau, but it turns out I ran out of railroad tracks to build my own railroad. See, I mixed it up. You know, when like the cartoon dog is putting the railroad tracks down on the front of the track while the train while it's running. Good commentary, Hank. This is what we call analysis. So yeah, he takes off his shirt. He says Nelly. People love cultural references. What if he said, in the words of great American poet Dustin Diamond? Zoinks! That's a Scooby-Doo sound, actually. Trump is a scab. Vote Harris. They've been making statements about the Gaza genocide. They've been making strong statements, but they're still like promoting the thing, and it's easy to get pissed about that, and I don't blame anybody for getting ticked about it. But you know, it sucks that it's happening. The genocide is, until they resolve it, and let's be honest, they've done generations of damage to those people. They've done enormous, and there's probably going to be eventual blowback in the cycle of violence. God, it's just so sickening. It's so fucking, it's enraging. But I like that Trump is a scab language. I love elevating the concept of a scab to this kind of prominence. He is a scab. He crossed a picket line as a union member when he was in SAG-AFTRA. There's a picture of him doing that, and like we like to point that out. It's good to call this guy out for that. And it elevates union language and union sort of I don't want to say priorities, but union messaging. But yeah, there's a word I'm looking for, I can't find, but it elevates that into the bigger conversation and the broader consciousness, and that's something that is sorely needed in this country. And I just wanted to make the point that a scab is a repulsive thing, and someone who does that, and the bosses know, though, that this is what they do with maintaining coercive societal conditions. In other words, if you don't work, you don't eat. If you don't work, you don't sleep indoors. If you don't work, you don't get to live. You have also, you know, you have to, it's coerced labor. We live in a coercive labor society. And so when a factory goes on strike and there's someone who is willing to be a scab to cross that line, in a lot of those cases, I have empathy and sympathy for the scabs themselves. Like someone who's, it's either they piss off people who are striking by crossing a picket line, risking, sometimes they get attacked for that too. There's been a lot of history of that, but like your community is going to call you a scab and yell at you and be shitty to you. Oh, maybe there's a different entrance. You don't get that. But oftentimes though, those people are desperate too. Like it's still part of the desperation matrix that allows for divisiveness to form between the workers. And meanwhile, the bosses are still getting the labor that they want. Because the scabs take away the power of the strike, because now you're fulfilling what the bosses want, which is they want entropy tightened into useful units. They need the work. They need a human body and a human brain to do the precise motions with the boxes, with the buttons, with the machines, with the tools, with the shipping, with the putting stuff on a truck, with the taking stuff off a truck, et cetera, breathing in fumes, breathing in toxic poisons, getting injured, getting wounded, getting hurt, all that other stuff that's super annoying, which is why it's driving them to want to replace us all with robots. I'll go on about that another day, but I believe that that's their intention, is to go full steam on climate change, develop enough technology that eventually it's like a planet with 2 million super wealthy luxury people with like continent-wide robot factories, robot things, and just all. It's going to be a nightmare society. Because they don't need your body. They don't need your humanity. They need your body's ability to do precise things with its brain and its fingers. That's literally all work is. And your stamina, right? Humans are pretty good, sadly. I mean, and this is a good, I hope this doesn't sound untoward. Is that the word I'm looking for? But like humans are a pretty good field animal. Humans can go a long time and do a lot of stuff and be coerced into doing that without, you know, the whole trick of the masters is that they just keep us all distracted, tired, weak, exhausted, angry, resentful, racist, sexist, so that we don't form the solidarity it takes to say, there's like 90 of us and one of them. What the fuck are we doing here? Like why are 90 of us gathering coconuts for that one guy so that we get a sliver of coconut back? Let's do this differently. Instead, we go, fuck you, you got your sliver slightly bigger than my sliver. Fuck you, your color is different than my color. We get into that, right? That's a simplistic. So yeah. Oh, in conclusion of the scab thing, there is a person in this story in the union vernacular that is worse than a scab, and that is Union Buster. Union Buster is easily by far a worse actor in this whole thing, in this exchange, than a scab. A scab might be a piece of shit person, often probably, and you know, is a desperate person who's just trying to feed their family because they also live in this society where basic needs aren't cared for. Therefore, they're able to get the scabs to show up. But it's the Union Buster. And I would also place above scabs as the lawyers, the consultants, the union busting attorneys and lawyers and consultants that the Union Busters hire. And yes, I'm talking about Cenk Uygur. And yes, I'm talking about Howard Schultz and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all those other ones. And yes, those like the TYT comparative to those companies is quite a big difference, but it doesn't matter. No Evil Foods, all these other little companies that do union busting. The Union Buster needs to be called out. That's kind of what my project is with the Young Turks, with my whole documentary. I think we need to know, we need to do more calling out Union Busters, especially those that run media companies where they say they're progressive. That's just so funny to me. Okay. Oh shit. Oh, this is just a slow motion one. Did I? Oh, are they doing the Pledge of Allegiance? This is parts of, oh, that's the national anthem. This is more nationalist bullshit. So rockets. We've got violence in our national anthem. Oh, look, there's bombs in the sky. No wonder we're all fucking warlike maniacs. These are talented singers. They deserve a better song. Uh-oh. Wave and the home of the... I would add... Let's just listen to it. Banner yet wave. I like the conductor guy. Land of the free. Not true. Of the... Whoa. Multiple braves. I like that. Brave. The home of the brave. I would say involuntarily brave. I think we're sort of... I think it's forced on us a little bit. Because you got to be brave to, like, commute to work in these horrifying death traps we call cars and roads. You got to be brave because you got to stand up for the ability that maybe your disabled friend can see a doctor. They force the bravery because you have to be brave to survive in danger. And America is the root function of its economy is stress and the feeling of fear, aka danger. The presence of danger requires preparation for violence, which is why Americans associate violence with security. Until that cultural shift happens, until we start associating caring about each other with security, we are never going to get rid of the violence issues we have here. I think economic conditions have a great influence on it, but we culturally associate violence with safety. Thus, my belief that we should use the phrase, in addition to defund the police, but defund violent government. I'd rather talk to somebody. I think it's easier to talk someone out of violence than police, even though those two words are synonyms. All right. Oh, God. Speaking of violence, Hillary Clinton. Sorry, I had to take a look. Quick edit there. I don't know what she's talking about, but she did turn up on day one to remind everybody why she's such a stellar politician. Look, this is another one of those off the charts charisma type people. Just let's see what she says. I'm not even sure what she's going to know about.
Families building better lives, parents stretching to afford child care, young people.
I thought she was going to stop with parents stretching, because I do actually think most parents could benefit from some more stretching. I know you guys are bending over all the time, picking up Legos and blocks and Game Boy buttons and children and stuff and dog poop. But yeah, stretch it out. Those you don't want to pull a hammy.
People struggling to pay their rent. They're all asking us to keep going.
Let's go back.
To pay their rent.
Let me go back.
Child care, young people struggling to pay their rent. They're all asking us to keep going.
Young people struggling to pay the rent. You know who's not struggling? Hillary. She had slaves in Arkansas when she was living in the governor's mansion. They provide prison labor to the governor's mansion in Arkansas. I'm not sure that still happens today in 2024, but this was like late 80s, early 90s. And yeah, they had help from prisons in there. Help. Okay. Help. It's actually help. The 13th Amendment has legalized slavery. Slavery is not illegal in this country. We just nationalized it. We turned it into, you know, if you get arrested and criminalized up enough, then we can make you a slave. And they use them in Hillary. So she wasn't paying rent. Yeah, easy money for these people. Her and Bill Clinton made like hundreds of millions of dollars giving speeches. And after they're like, you know, like it's crazy that they're able to profit that much off their notoriety. But yeah, this is, I gotta
pay the rent. They're all asking us to keep going.
We need the people who were paying the rent need Hillary to keep going. Who will get us out of this one? I know this lady. This is one of the best photos of all time. This is Hillary Clinton. My apartment looks almost exactly like this. I think I had a little bit more space between the oven and the sink, but yeah, the oven's on the other side of this. I have a sink just like that. I have much uglier cabinets. I have like fake wood laminate. I said cabinets, fake wood. The cabinets are white painted. They're gross and white, but the countertops are like fake wood. Yeah, my kitchen looks a lot like that. But she just has this look of horror. It doesn't zoom in, damn it. And she's inside some apartment, which she would. It's just so funny. It's just so funny that they scream about the rent. I'd be fascinated to find out what investments she has in companies that are profiting off of landlordism and stuff like that. So, all right, that's good. Thanks, Hillary. Thanks for really pitching in there. Definitely not part of the problem. Speaking of which, Bill Clinton, this guy sounds old as shit. He's 78 now. He was very indulgent on stage, just took his time. What night was this one? This is day 3. I kind of was hoping to do all day 1, but that's fine, whatever. Here's Clinton.
Bargaining for prices. We need more financing for small businesses.
Yeah, that's right, more financing.
We need still to strengthen our alliances. I almost croaked in the first debate.
Oh man, that would have been good ratings. Don't tempt me with a good time. All right, well, fuck that guy. He's old. He's a piece of shit. So many of the policies that he passed in the 90s, the deregulation of the media, the anti-welfare legislation, and like just utterly wrecked this world and pulled what little social safety nets were out and enabled the media consolidation that led us down this path that we're on right now. Just a fucking villain. Just a villain. Nice pause there. Okay. Tim Walz, let's get to it. Let's see what our new guy has to say. Like I said, really glad that this is the choice that they made. Watching him bat around JD Vance has been great. He's heading towards becoming a war criminal with his boss, because they all are, because that's what American foreign policy means. So let's hope there's some pushing we can do. I showed a video last podcast of him being disrupted by some climate protesters, and there's a follow-up to that I'm looking to do. Apparently he met with them and he changed his position on it. I need to get some interest on that. So like, as far as the type of person we get out of this country, this guy is very about as good as it gets in that sense. And on top of it, he's got that background that, of course, the righties are trying to pick apart his military service, 24 years, and there's some detail, some nuance with the way he retired, with what proper rank he had, that he didn't take some course that certified like you get elevated to the rank, and then to get it formalized for the next year, you have to finish this course. But he was retiring to run for Congress. He's already 24 years in. So like the righties are trying to like pick apart that he's being labeled, or that they're using a like one stage up, which he had. It just didn't get formalized because of the course or something. And so they're saying that he's like stealing valor and lying. It's not at all that. And I've seen him being defended by people from the military too, or within, you know, with military bona fides as well. It's just such, if that's all they got, they don't got much. They really don't got anything there. So, but you know, in America, if you join the military service thing, is we eat that up here in this military hellhole society we have. We love our violence. We venerate our violent soldiers. So it's good for politics. It's good politics to have that background. And the high school football coach, the high school teacher, you know, good guy, good family, nice kids. It seems like his son is neurodivergent, which I'm like, hoorah, let's do it, bro. Come on. I would cry too. I cried watching fucking Bernie Sanders and his brother crying, right? I wish those guys would. Okay, let me just keep going.
And yeah, your kid's freedom to go to school without worrying about being shot dead in the hall.
I love it. I love it. Bold. Yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
I know
like,
guns.
I'm not taking away people who have that rage and feelings about the gun situation, but because I was saying it earlier. But like, we're not a country that cares enough to stop it. Otherwise, we would have stopped it. And a lot of us want to. And and so, how do you stop it? Like I mean, meaning like I'm not going to sit here and act like I have the answer. But you got to go up the chain of power and chop away at the ability for the NRA and for the manufacturers and the gun, you know, to influence politics. Like there's other levers that need to be severed that would eventually lead to it going down and stopping it, hopefully, I think. But if you do that, you're attacking the whole power system. So they're not going to, doing it through itty bitty little legislative victories here and there, banning bump stocks, which they then just, the Supreme Court just made legal again, banning assault weapons, which hasn't been, like, that expired decades ago, and maybe, you know, nitpicking about magazine size. And this upsets a lot of people because they associate their right to prepare for violence. That's how they feel safe. I think one of the major avenues for arresting, I mean that term in like slowing and stopping, the gun violence epidemic is persuading, instead of, because when you say we're going to take away your guns, people hear that and they think you're going to make me more you're going to make my life worse. I'm going to be in danger. My security, the emotional feeling I get from having the ability to commit violence to defend myself is now going to be, you're making me more vulnerable and scared. So I'm going to say no to that. How dare you? I have a weapon. Guns are very powerful things. I've done a lot of shooting. I used to go skeet shooting with my dad. I've fired guns. I've shot geese, you know, BB guns and stuff too, but also like shotguns. And like my dad gave me a shotgun for Christmas when I was 13 years old. And a 12 gauge Remington pump shotgun. Pretty cool gun. And they're cool machines, and it's exciting. And the movies sell you how cool it is to be a military guy. They call them operators. Look, people love having that little like necklace that has like electronics on it, and then your earpiece, you know, and the vest with all the pockets, right? And a patch. I'm a like, what the fuck society are we living in here? What is this shit? Those are all profitable transactions, by the way. And so like, in order to suggest to somebody that they alleviate their gun usage, in other words, say like, you know, maybe apparently he went through a shift on his mentality about guns, which is good. I think he talks about it right after when we click play here. But that doesn't, in order to suggest to someone that they give up a gun or change their opinions and their viewpoints about the presence of these machines in our world, you have to provide them with an alternative form of safety, meaning there has to be another lily pad, so to speak, for them to move over to. You can't just say, I'm removing something that makes you feel safe, and they're going to be okay with that. Nobody's going to be okay with that. That's partly the intractability of it. This is the failure of the Democrats to message, I would say, because they're really good at having fundraising parties. They're really good at making rich people comfortable. They're really good at having their fucking social media influencer parties and their celebrity liaisons and their surrogates. They're really good at all that shit in their media apparatus, but they don't have a story, especially under Biden. At least now with Harris, they've got at least some semblance of it. I mean, it's all kind of, bullshit, but like under Biden and in the last many years, decades or so, the James Carville epoch of American politics, the version you got from America, from the Democratic Party was, America's already great. America's already great, you damn morons. That was Hillary's campaign slogan. So and it's gaslighting. And so when you're offering someone, when you're suggesting that we should change things for the better, you have to have a vision and a concise story that they can then shift over to and say, this is a better way to achieve safety and security than fortress brain of gun preparation. And if I move to the woods or something, I mean, I'm not saying guns are always bad. Like, there's a lot of nuance to this stuff. I understand the need for it. It's like, some people get very defensively reactive about like, oh my God, I gotta have a gun. It's like, the ability to fling tiny pieces of metal across long distances at very fast speeds. That could be useful in some situations. The world has dangers in terms of like, if I had to go into the Alaskan wilderness, I would probably want to be able to kill a bear if it attacked me. Which a gun can be, I have a higher chance with a gun than with my clever wit, right? Unless it's just a particularly like leftist bear looking for a new parasocial relationship. All right, so what does he say here?
I'm a hunter, and I was a better shot than most Republicans in Congress, and I got the trophies to prove it.
Yeah, fuck you, Republicans. Our guy is good at shooting things. It is a skill. It is hard to hit targets. I was not very good with handguns, shooting at pizza boxes. I was pretty good at the skeet shooting with shotguns. I think my best was 21 out of 25. And, but around 16, 17 per box. Box of ammo, okay? For all you cucks. Sorry, didn't mean to call you a cuck. I'm sorry.
But I'm also a dad.
Oh, she's in love with him.
I believe in the Second Amendment, but I also believe our first responsibility is to keep our kids safe.
Yep. We're saying it.
That's what this is all about.
So he was formerly like an A-rated by the NRA, and then he switched over to, and he started voting against it with some of the schools. I think his kids had some influence on that. So good for them. Tim Walz again. Let's see what he says.
Workers come first. Healthcare and housing are human rights.
That phrase, healthcare and housing are human rights. I'll be very interested to see if this phrasing comes back. I doubt they'll let him say that again. I'm glad he said it. That's an important statement.
The government will build a country where workers come first. I backed up. Healthcare and housing are human rights. And the government stays the hell out of your bedroom.
Now, I'm agreeing with that, but I do think the government should provide sex toys for free. In that sense, I'd like them in my bedroom. Right? No cameras. That's not the government's role, but assistant devices should be. Why am I doing this? That's not funny or weird. Yeah. Add it to the 10 Commandments. Commandments? The Bill of Rights. what God. Yeah, stay out of the bedroom. Oh, look at all that. Look at Coach Walz.
That's how we make America a place where no child is left hungry, where no community is left behind, where nobody gets told they don't belong.
All right, I'm for it. But healthcare and housing is a human right. That has profound implications if we were actually trying to deliver that as a notion. I think the concept that someone should not have availability of a safe, clean, well-maintained, well-designed, thoughtfully engineered like society, meaning like a block, like the way that we engineer cities and systems and transportation networks within these things. I think that we are so fucking missing the mark in terms of the way we could be doing things. The history of the suburbs forming out of the cities, you know, the different eras of the way American society sort of produced itself, the ending of the frontier era, which in the 1800s as the, you know, as the era of the railroad barons. I'm thinking about Red Dead Redemption 2 right now. Sorry, I really want to play that game again. There's so much more to do in that game. I never got anywhere near all the animal pelts or the bird. I wanted to get all the birds. sorry, I totally lost it. That game takes place in a fascinating time, though. That's the whole point of the era in which it takes place is as the American frontier was dying off. There was old ways that people had adapted to, like these outlaw gangs and such, but cities were developing, railroad networks were maturing, and there was no more new land to conquer. There was still all kinds of horrible nightmares and stuff to go on, but fascinating, really great. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is like a masterpiece. Jesus Christ, Hank. Point is, housing is something that you can't necessarily just easily flip, but clearly we're not doing it well here. No one should ever pay for it. I don't think it's as easy as simply deciding that that's the case tomorrow, but a cultural shift to build out worlds where we, you know, look after each other, and the worthiness that you have to prove to deem yourself someone who should be indoors and sleep indoors safe is that you exist, is that you're alive. That's it. There's nothing else to me. Shouldn't be a job, shouldn't be how much money you have. Obviously, in a scenario like that, there'd be like the minimum outcome should be far better than where we are currently. But I think housing should, as a right, means that no matter where you go, your society will have available and it'll be maintained and looked after well. Like I'm imagining a world where someone like me, for instance, if my job was like being part of the maintenance team for my area and we did repairs on people's homes or whatever, and it's not like you're forced into any of this. It's just like you do something, you're helping your community out. You're taking care of people, especially the way we treat disabled people who can't, who struggle to, you know, who need extra help, who need their society to stand up and show up for them. We abandon disabled people. If they're lucky enough to have an indoors place to live, they're still trapped in so many ways. Their world, their freedom, if you were to map your freedom compared to theirs, it's a much smaller map for them, and it's terrifying, and it's wrong, and it is an immoral abomination here in this world. I've gotten my own education recently about my own ableism and my own disableism that I'm dealing with in both my wrists and like coming to terms with being autistic. Yeah. So one more time.
Stays the hell out of your bed first. Healthcare and housing are human rights.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's get it there. Those are complex things to deliver properly. So we're not doing, oops, I closed the tab. Oh my God. Klobu. Where my Klobu heads at? Where my Klobu? Where my Klobu boos? She's the best. There's nobody has attained this level of political charisma, this level of public speaking engagement. She's like 50 trillion Donald Trumps. Okay, that's a bit exaggerated. She's like 10 Donald Trumps. 9 Barack Obamas. Okay. 16 Bill Clintons. 20 Carrot Tops. She has it all. Nobody does it better. Let's listen to. Sit down. Pull over. Don't watch this if you're on a roller coaster, because you're going to have the overwhelming reaction to what you're about to see.
To take on the price of gas than a guy who could pull over to help change your tire. Who better to serve our nation than a guy who has served in uniform?
That's right. That's right. I didn't pick a spot.
Who better to find common ground than a guy with Midwestern common sense?
You're goddamn right. That's the kind of people I'm from, growing up in Illinois. Midwestern common sense. That's why I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Go Klobu!
A former football coach knows how to level the playing field.
Oh, perfect.
And a former public school teacher
knows how to draw on the chalkboard.
Knows how to school the likes of J.D. Vance.
Oh, snap! She got him! She fucking nailed it. Former school teacher knows how to school the likes of J.D. Vance. Is there more Klobu? Here she is at the Democratic Convention in 2020. I don't know. I just found it when I was searching.
Hello, America.
Uh-oh. She's back.
Like my friend Catherine.
Now, she doesn't have the enthusiasm of the audience to feed off of. You can give her a little break for that. The teeming masses of barking seals is not there. As a public performer once in my past life too, myself, I understand that feeling. I've done stand up to empty rooms. But this was a COVID situation here in 2020. So they did this all remotely. That's why we have kind of this empty pall. It sounds like she broke into a morgue.
I believe that the right to vote is fundamental and the post office is essential. You know, the president may hate the post office, but
That's
he's
true.
Still going to have to send them a change of address card come January.
I love it. I love the simple way, the little clicks. You know, I like to eat salad, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to chop my opponents into pieces and drizzle them with. She famously ate a salad with a comb or something. There's a story.
January.
Let's go ahead here. Let's just see. It's a short speech. We're not watching.
Understands redemption and he knows resilience. Joe Biden's a man of deep experience. Barack Obama, better known tonight as Michelle's husband, he leaned on Joe for his strength and decency, and you can too.
There you go. Decency.
You know, most candidates, when they end their campaign.
I just want to hear the end here. Let's just see how she lands this one. You know, the spruce moose is bringing in the gold.
As you're about to see, it's also the story of the Democratic primary. Thank you, America.
You're welcome. Amy Klobuchar. Okay, so good for you, Klobuchar. Big fan. Can't get enough of it.
American.
Oh shit! Just stop. Here, I'll turn it off. Do it in slow motion so it's haunting. All right. Well, that's all I got though. I gotta take a break, by the way. So I'm just my brain is just checking out of this podcast right as I'm saying this sentence. Edit. All right. Hey, okay. Had to take a break there to record a different podcast. More on that later. Very excited. Very fun. So thrilled to finally to be able to eventually tell you all about it. So, all right, let's keep pushing here. I'm going to change our background to Phil Donahue died. The guy died. For those of you that were born after the 2000.com crash, why did I? He was a TV guy. One of the bravest men in history. No, I don't know about that, but he was long talk show host, very comforting voice. Phil Donahue. I haven't impersonated him since my teen years in the 90s, but the guy was also like a progressive sort of holdout or a stalwart. Is that the right word? But he stood out. Not that he was slinging his lefty bullshit everywhere, but he was an accepting person. He was a part of the world that kind of made it okay for people to be who they are, a little bit closer towards the expression of humanity that we all are striving for, not just the narrow conceptions of conformity that our culture demands. So just a couple of things, and then we're going to watch a video of him. It says, R.I.P. This is Paul Rudnick, New York. R.I.P. Phil Donahue, who supported feminist and LGBTQ causes long before such things became fashionable. He stayed curious and compassionate and used his talk show to explore every facet of life. Fun fact, he employed legendary street photographer Vivian Mayer as a nanny. That's interesting. What if he said he employed a legendary nanny as a photographer? Wouldn't that have been more fun? One of the most notable things is that where he got kicked out of MSNBC for raising anti-war perspectives on TV, or NBC, I think, MSNBC. which kind of speaks back to what I was saying a little bit earlier about like the it takes a village to do a genocide. The media companies are complicit. The power structures are all complicit with the way. And so if you speak up against war and America killed 1 million Iraqis over there, George W. Bush should be rotting in a prison cell somewhere for war crimes if we lived in a just world, something even close to just world. But instead, people like Phil Donahue, the time around the Iraq war was an absolute just frenzy of nationalistic freak out. It was really scary. It was very and the media environment still was kind of like the last sort of era of television dominance. I mean, still, I think there's a large degree online or news dominance, news and TV. Those things have shifted online to a major point. They're still rooted deeply in the palace of power, but the internet has definitely come along and disrupted so much of that. But in the mid 2000s, people didn't have we had email and we had really horrible photos on our phones, but nothing like the smartphones and the videos and the social media, nothing like any of that, or the podcasts and et cetera, et cetera. So Sharon Zhang says, RIP Phil Donahue. His words about his 2003 firing from MSNBC because of his opposition to the Iraq war still ring true today. Quote, they were terrified of the anti-war voice. This is Phil Donahue. Well, I think what happened to me, the biggest lesson, I think, is how corporate media shapes our opinions and our coverage. This was a decision, my decision. The decision to release me came from far above. This was not an assistant program director who decided to separate me from MSNBC. They were terrified of the anti-war voice, and that is not an overstatement. Anti-war voices were not popular, and if you're General Electric, you certainly don't want an anti-war voice on a cable channel that you own. General Electric was a defense contractor. Not sure exactly the current corporate status, and I think Comcast owns MSNBC now, but a defense contractor that owns media, just like Elon Musk. It should be illegal for any entity that does business with the government to also own media. Separate those. Anyway, back to Phil Donahue. Donald Rumsfeld is your biggest customer. So he was the Secretary of Defense, also like the head of a bunch of defense agency or defense companies, I think, after he left. Just a scoundrel. This Donald Rumsfeld was one of the worst people in the history of the world. So almost as bad as as Kissinger sets a high bar, but he was like a Kissinger sort of figure. Evil, 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 evil. Donald Rumsfeld is your biggest customer. So, by the way, I had to have two conversations on, or two conservatives on for every liberal. I could have Richard Pearl. I could have Richard Pearl on alone, but I couldn't have Dennis Kucinich on alone. I was considered two liberals. I think it might be a typo. It really is funny almost when you look back on how the management was just frozen by the anti-war voice. We were scolds. We weren't patriotic. American people disagreed with us, and we weren't good for business. Man, just really. And then a guy actually first comment relates it to Mehdi Hasan getting canceled, getting fired recently for his advocacy for Palestinian rights and lives. So the media is in on it. The media is part of it. These companies, like, look at what they did too. What did we accomplish with Iraq? What did we do? We murdered a million people. We devastated infrastructure. We killed 6,000 American troops. We ran torture camps. We ran, the humiliation and degradation that existed in those places. Some of it became scandalous, but of course we end up with, I don't have the picture here, but Michelle Obama and George W. Bush canoodling at McCain's funeral and giving each other, little Ricola candies. What if that was like an advertising opportunity for Ricola? What if my podcast, I go, Ricola, sorry, Ricola, don't sue me. So it's completely, they rehabilitate the war criminals, they discipline, but before they do that, they discipline the society, the cultural and the social power of media to prevent people from hearing voices, just the words. That's how scary information is to powerful people. Why, despots go after people who can read, or why the conservatives in America are going after the Department of Education, and all the kinds of ways that an educated, informed, and I would argue far more important, well, not far more importantly, but arrested. This is why I advocate for the 4-day work week, or for time to be returned to humans, is because we need to be rested. The exhaustion that's baked into the system of overwork is probably the biggest way that they keep people from rising up. They just keep you busy and tired, and what time and money you do have on the side, you just, you know, park it in front of the TV or go on some stupid vacation or buy yourself some bullshit, as opposed to like truly rested, truly healthy, truly safe community. Predictable security means that you can rise up or start organizing, run for office yourself. So honestly, I think all the whole, if I were in charge of the left, which, come on, like and subscribe. If it get me to 1,000 subscribers, we will. But if I were in charge, I would direct everybody to do 4-day work week, like a cultural shift, not just like a piecemeals here and there. And I know it's not an easy thing to switch over, but we switched from 6 to 5. And if we switch from 5 to 4, and in substantial and huge ways, it would liberate people from the exhaustion regime. And it doesn't even take a big percentage. A tiny sliver of people would be able to, would then be able to have the energy to stand up and fight this stuff. My point being that just information is enough for the powers that be to be scared and to kick this guy off, who was a very popular, famous, you know, respected voice in American letters. Why did I say letters? I was thinking, you know, that thing where it's like, this in American letters, like people who write, that's like PBS. Wow, what I fucked up the end of that comment. Donahue here, checking Ayn Rand after she spewed some vile stereotypes about Palestinians. They don't make talk show hosts like this anymore. Take a listen.
Your characterization of the situation in the Middle East came down rather gratuitously and in a very angry way on the Arabs, and without discussing the merits of either side in a most complicated and painful collision of cultures and peoples in our world. Why couldn't the millions of men, women, and children who are Arab and who find themselves in this desperate conflict and look around wondering where peace will be, why can't they be angry with you for your characterization of them, your slap at them, your roundhouse criticism of them, when you don't seem to be able to tolerate a questioner who suggests that she disagrees with you? Characterization is, you do not accept any criticism unless you level it. Your characterization.
That's an interesting setup too. This environment's fascinating. I want to find this whole video. I want to look up where Ayn Rand. Maybe I'll try to remember to do that. Let me write that down, because I will not. Ayn Rand. That she's a fascinating figure in the discourse too. I know it's super easy just to start throwing the insults around, but I think there's something fascinating about that whole story. I read The Fountainhead at a younger age, not even really understanding much of the politics that were going on. But all right, Ayn Rand. What the fuck? Look at my note. My note sucks. That's bullshit. On Donahue. Come on, Hank. Come on, Hank. Use your paper. So, well, good for him. And look how annoyed she gets when she like lifts up her hand right here.
Criticism of them. When you don't seem to be...
Dude, don't you understand there's different sets of rules based on who you are in this world? That's the world that she's trying to defend. Come on, you dickhead. So good for him, man. And that goes way back. This is like 80s. That microphone is one of them old ass microphones. I don't know when that was. Interesting. Maybe we'll do a follow-up. All right, let's kick it over. Couple of little ones, and then we're going to do a TYT story. I've been recording for about 5 hours straight. But I'm feeling good. I'm feeling energy. All right, so this might be boring. All right, so this is Jen Psaki, but this is actually, I believe, Chris Hayes and Lawrence O'Donnell. I know Chris Hayes caught a bunch of grief for pointing out something obvious about Biden. Not sure much Jen. I haven't listened to it yet, so it's on Jen Psaki now. But according to this, it's Lawrence O'Donnell, Chris Hayes having a duke out, and Lawrence O'Donnell is just a total toady for the establishment. He's just a hardcore, right up the middle, not right deep in the heart of the demonic dungeon palace that destroys planets.
and say, it's okay.
Yeah,
we're
it's
okay.
for the best.
It's for the best. We're standing up for democracy. And just the challenge of that, it really speaks to their character. And I think that's a big part of what
the sacrifice writ large for the family.
Yeah, and it was that.
I'm going to get a date here. This is August 20th, 2024 is when at least this tweet was posted. So it's somewhat recent.
In some ways, this sort of form content, incredible pathos to the whole thing because of that. The self-sacrifice, a man with a titanic ego. Let's be clear. Joe Biden, President of the United States, a formidable ego. The guy who ran for Senate, was elected in 29 years, has spent 50 years in public life. This is someone who occupies a room. He likes the attention on himself, like all of these things, and also paired with like a deep sense of service and fundamentally contrasted with a person who lives their entire life in service of ego and avoiding ego death in Donald Trump, even if that means bringing down the constitutional republic so as not to brook having lost. And here you have someone whose last
So, like, I mean, Chris Hayes pisses off a lot of lefties. He does a little bit too much of the, like, baby deer seeing the world for the first time kind of a analysis, I think. But he's a smart guy, and I think he's a thoughtful dude overall. Certainly he wouldn't have his job if he weren't useful to the empire, obviously. But hitting hard on the ego question, you know, Brooks the concept of narcissism and negative personality traits, but I think it's fair. I think we're in a world where we're mostly younger ages probably, but talking about this sort of stuff is becoming more and more front and center as the world is our generations are sort of reconciling with the harmful cultural norm that you don't talk about mental problems or mental unwellness or just basic sort of structural stuff like ego. I have an ego for sure. Anybody you see on TV has an ego. I think literally everybody in the world has an ego. That sense that you are protective of, you're defensive about certain qualities and you're seeking validation and affirmation from other people, no doubt. And it can get very warped. And people with big egos tend to be, you know, particularly with ambition, who become the types who become politicians, podcasters, comedians, whatever people, they have colossal egos, and it can be destructive with other personality characteristics. So I'm guessing Lawrence is going to drop the Lawrence bomb real soon here.
Major political act is this act of getting up there to say, like, vote for her. Yeah. Thank you, Kamala. Like, that isn't, I mean, we've never said that. LBJ, as you said, was salty as all hell in '68 and basically wanted Nixon to win. You know what I mean? Like, what he did tonight, what Biden did tonight, is something that doesn't happen in politics. Like, it's an incredible thing to watch it happen in real time and to know that, like, he is hitting the marks and doing all this in service of something higher than themselves, in service of the country, in service of the Democratic Party, in service of American democracy. Like, that is walking the walk like I have rarely seen in my life covering politics.
Can I just put a quick note on presidential and politician ego in perspective? Having worked with Joe Biden in the Senate, and Jen, I'm happy to hear you on this, I would have ranked Joe Biden's ego in the 100 in the Senate that I worked in, somewhere around 50.
Yeah,
okay, so it's like he is below average in actual fact and in the working day and the way ego intrudes on the working day, which is very important, which is to say, how does the ego work when the door is closed and it's 12 people or 6 people or more trying to do something important? And he was never the problematic ego in the room, and there were definitely problematic egos in the room.
So there were smellier clowns at the circus, is what the defensive Lawrence O'Donnell has to say. Okay. I'm not sure I'd describe it as stuff some in a locker about it. He does seem a little defensive. And Chris Hayes is praising him. This is like has his job. He was saying, this guy's got a huge ego, but despite that, he did do the thing that we didn't expect someone with his ego to do, which is to step aside and make room for Kamala. You know, yeah. But it doesn't, you're supposed to say, this guy just killed a whole bunch of people with the genocide and fuck them and let's go. Like, why can't we call the police? Obviously, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If you're a politician and an important person in a big job, it's policy to murder people. You don't get the police called on you for that. But yeah. All right. Well, that was kind of boring. I mean, it's whatever. Just okay. So next one, tweeted out from ACYN. This is, I just bookmarked. Anon writes. It's that dude Anon GR. Oh God, Judara hearted this. He's a guy, But it's Elizabeth Hasselbeck talking about bias and stuff. August 18th, 2024.
You just talked about Kamala Harris supposedly eating a bag of Doritos, so emotionally charged after hearing this. That's the commander-in-chief, potentially. That's the emotional response of the leader of the free world, is to binge eat a bag of Doritos? Are you kidding me? Can you imagine Putin, how he deals with things? Chugging.
Hey, honey, did you know Kamala Harris's snacks not the same as Putin? She's eating Doritos.
Down a bag of Sour Patch Kids because he's depressed about something not going his way, or back in the day, Soleimani.
Could you imagine Putin eating Sour Patch Kids? No. But Kamala Harris has a snack called Doritos, very popular. Probably one of the most popular snacks. Very expensive now, too. It's like $5 for a fucking bag. Like, what the fuck? Seriously? We're charging this much for a bag of air with a bunch of chips inside?
What is he, binging on Funyuns? I doubt it. I doubt that's the...
What is Kim Jong-un doing? Eating Snickers bars? Huh? Buying a bag of low-carb Dove single servings, but then having all 3 of them in the box? Is that what he's doing? No, I don't think so. No, these leaders, they blow up their enemies using ground-to-air anti-aircraft munitions on their uncles, and they do that on the ground. When they killed their uncle, they didn't throw the guy in the air and shoot him. They just shot him. I think one of those guys killed their like a relative with a gun. Like, that's wild. Yeah. So she's just worried. She's just calling out Kamala. I don't know what the story is. She probably said something about how she had a bag of Doritos. You hear these extemporaneous kind of little anecdotes. Oh, yeah, and then she was stressed out, and then she had opened up a bag of Doritos. It's like, it's stupid. It's really stupid. They never show the heroes in movies eating, you know, like in 24 or in a more updated contemporary reference, Lost or something. Just pick a show, any show. They never show people just like having dukes in the bathroom or like getting food or getting hungry, because those are basic functions that we all just assume happens. But honestly, if movies were more honest, they would show characters being like, "You guys want to get some food? Somebody got like, I'm hungry. Let's do this. Can we work on this tomorrow?" Instead, they just push the story forward. It's bullshit. That's how you know Hollywood's fake.
Actual response of an elite leader, whether you agree with what they're leading or not.
It's not an elite response. Putin opens a jar of Maker's Mark and chugs it. Donald Trump, definitely not someone who is indulgent in disgusting junk food when he's in some sort of state of elite leading. This is really stupid. This is incredibly dumb. This is what they think about their viewers and supporters. So they're trying to make a stick. I just bookmarked this. I didn't know what they were talking about. That's why it's in this podcast. So let's move it over. Okay. Couple of TYT bits here. Hasanabi, former coworker of mine. I used to edit a few of his breakdown videos. Wasn't his primary, but knew the guy. I was actually at Young Turks in the very, very earliest days when he first showed up, meaning like when his earliest days. I remember seeing this huge dude. He was carrying some more weight back then, but it was just suddenly there was this, he's very big. His shoulders are just giant. As I like to point out, I've said this once before. His head, he gets a lot of grief about his head being small. It's actually just in relativity on display. He has a very normal sized head. In fact, his head's probably bigger than average, but he's like 6'5", and he's got giant, like the slider on his shoulders is just all the way too wide. He's got these big old fucking weird, crazy shoulders. And it's so his head is actually not that small. It's just that his shoulders are oversized. Just want to say that because in person, his head does look small because his shoulders are oversized, right? Like if my thighs were huge, people would say that guy has skinny calves. So anyway, he was at the DNC this week. Good for him. Guy makes millions of dollars a day on Twitch. That's an exaggeration, but he's a millionaire. He makes a ton of money, millions a year, and has a huge audience. I would love it if he ever gets a hold of my documentary and puts that on his stream because he's in it. And it's about the labor force that created his value. The people who started that union at the Young Turks that I helped with, like literally the people who produced the work that this guy's career is foundationally built upon. So it would be cool if someday he gets a hold of that. I actually ran into him once when I was doing food deliveries. He was waiting for food somewhere, and we chatted. But Anyway, now that I've sufficiently name dropped, he gets booted out of the DNC. What the fuck? Let's see what happens.
In terms of like literally.
By the way, this is on his show. They set him up. I've been paying somewhat attention to the DNC this week, and apparently I saw him setting up in his hotel on the first day, and then he was walking around. Someone followed him around with the camera around the convention center. Kind of an interesting look at things. He's very famous, man. People are just bothering him constantly for pictures and whatever else, all kinds of stuff. You know, being famous seems like a strange curse.
Oh my God, I'm such a big fan of you.
But anyway, so now they've got him set up with a background booth. He's got a much higher profile than the Young Turks, from which he was born. And it's kind of amazing that they gave him this sort of shot. I mean, look at that's the stage right there, right? Doesn't that seem to be it? I mean, it is a huge building, and there is a lot of room for this kind of stuff. But they did give him a pretty primo looking spot. So, but he gets kicked out. Why?
In terms of like literally only having Israeli victims and their family members be held into question while Palestinian and pro-Palestinian people are getting fucking beaten out, okay? Like they're literally the delegates themselves that dare bring up the Palestinian casualties get fucking booed, they get humiliated, they get kicked aside. It is fucking ridiculous, okay? Yes, of course these people have a right to speak, and yes, of course they deserve to have their child back, okay? I am not a fucking soulless monster. I'm not a heartless piece of shit, okay? There is no like boo, like I can't believe she's doing this, I can't believe the Democratic Party is doing this. But the fact that after all of the commitment that the Democratic Party has given to the Israeli government to just basically absolutely eviscerate entire Palestinian families with American-made bombs, that they can't even fucking have a Palestinian person, an individual with family members come and speak in this similar fashion is disgusting to me. This conversation itself better turn around into one that specifically focuses on Benjamin Netanyahu and his disruptive attitude towards the ceasefire negotiations, or else I'm going to lose my fucking mind.
Okay, so I'm going to see if I can find more, because that was clearly the thing that got him going. And here's a link that someone clicked to. It's a Twitch clip.
We don't know.
You're the person.
I think we can go to meme.
So I wanted the political directors here. I was wondering what happened.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Wait, what was that? What just happened?
So I wanted the political directors here. I was wondering what happened.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Wait, what was that? What just happened? What?
Okay, I think we can put you in the buff out. I know there's no hardwire internet there.
No, yeah, that's what Elle told us. It's fine. It's okay. We'll just we'll probably just go back to the hotel then. I'm just trying to figure out if I can like I mean, in that area, would I?
We could set you up with like a corner.
I think what they're doing is relocating him somewhere. And it sounded like she said there's no internet. I know there's no internet. We could set you up in a corner. So it seems like there's, instead of saying, get out of here, fucking, but someone said, dude, why is this guy got that spot? Why is this guy looking like in this like primo location? I should have done it in a new window. Oh God, what the fuck? RFK Jr. suspends his campaign to endorse Trump. Yeah, that's been about to happen. Jesus Christ. What a pig. Sorry, this is just a brief aside. By the way, go follow Emo Dragon and Jen, who adore anybody. Emo Dragon retweets. You should go follow. He's a good dude on Twitter. I did actually do it in the way. Okay, yeah, so that's interesting. So it's like they're just going to give him a different a spot where he can film that's not as prime, and he just says, all right, we'll go back to the hotel. I mean, that's kind of how you kick someone out, unless you're really like pissed about him. Like, what if he had a laser pointer and was pointing it at Kamala, and then they said, "Out of here with the laser pointer."
About an Ethernet cord, I just don't know how fast I can move on it.
The only thing.
Interesting. So here is Hasanabi Productions meme account. Just curious if this is true here. Apparently the reason Hasan was kicked out of his DNC room, we got booted. So this is Hasanabi. I'm just going to take this on good faith that this is him, legit. We got booted because of uncommitted, by the way, because I was wearing the Palestinian flag and interviewing the uncommitted delegates, LMAO. And then a whole bunch of, is this from Discord? I don't know. I can't fucking keep up with any of it. So here's another Twitch streamer, Hasan Piker, currently meeting with the uncommitted delegates, protesting outside the DNC. All right. Yep. There he is, talking to him. So, update. Is this, what's the date here, though? This is August 23rd. Interesting. So, that's today right now. Update. He says he knows the reason, but he can't tell us he knows it because, you know, you can guess it yourself. If you don't believe it, he said you can see only he got kicked out of the booth and other people with him in the booth. It wasn't kicked. Yeah. That's fascinating. I wish we could catch the moment where they made him get up out of there, and maybe it's somewhere. This whole streaming business is really intense. It's a little bit like Truman Show stuff, where you're constantly filmed and every single bit becomes content. That must be sort of its own kind of strange thing. At least he's getting compensated for it, I guess. But there's no way it can be good for his psyche long term. I mean, all right, well, fucking crazy that this dude just mentioned a few very common sense ideas that the people who are on the receiving end of a genocidal empire have a right and should deserve to have their voice heard at a convention that's supposed to be about looking out for your neighbors and about the big tent and all that. So nope, it's not. The Democratic Party is a racist organization that is actively committing a genocide rooted in its origins of racism, imperialism, colonialism, settler colonialism, geopolitical strategy, and resource extraction. So fuck them all. Long live Hasanabi. Next up, I caught this on the Young Turks stream. I found this fascinating. As you guys know, I used to work there. I know if you're in the podcast, I'm saying that in case I clip this, but my old boss there on the left, I remember actually one time seeing David Sirota at TYT. I was a lot taller than he was at the time. Strange thing to say. I'm 6'3". I'm, not bragging or anything, but that's short for a tall guy, right? But no, good energy. What am I saying? He visited the studio once in like 2014. Big deal. I saw him. That's all it is. So this is just a fairly ordinary conversation you'd expect from people with progressive, priorities and progressive politics. I really appreciate what The Lever is doing. I like their podcast Movies versus Capitalism. I enjoy that a lot. They just came out with one called Master Plan about corruption. I think it's one of those like fancy podcasts you have to pay for. So I'm curious if I can eventually be able to listen to that. I, don't have the money to pay for, boutique podcasts, but it sounds like a really well-written, well-reported thing. The Chapo gang has done like Blowback, this podcast that does like historical kind of series. I think they've done 3 or 4 so far. So those are cool. I like that stuff. So good on David Sirota. I like the work that he does. I follow on Twitter. And they're talking about paid family leave and paid and medical leave and sort of the priorities of the Democrats and sort of the shift that's happened with the Biden dropout. And, just for the context too, is like, in my case, I am interested in reacting to the sort of ways Cenk talks about the importance of medical care and health insurance and benefits, because this is relating to the article I wrote about why I wanted to unionize at the Young Turks, is because I didn't receive any benefits while working full-time hours under multiple classifications. First was independent contractor, then as a part-time temporary worker, working 40-hour weeks called part-time, and then finally as a part-time permanent regular. I did eventually get benefits, including paid family leave, but that was after 12 months of labor. So I wrote this article, and here's a snippet from the contract that says no benefits, no leave. Here it is, leaves of absence, right? So with that in mind, let's hear what these guys are talking about. And in the film that I'm making, Tell the Truth, Cenk, there's a quote here. This is why I'm doing this as like a clip or like a part of the show here today. Is Cenk says something that I think is probably going to make it into the final cut of the movie. So here we go. Play.
So as we were talking here, I came to the conclusion that there is a litmus test for Kamala Harris if we're lucky enough for her to win, right? And it's paid family leave. And I'll tell you why. So in terms of people pushing for it systematically, honestly, there's only 4 people in the country that I know. I'm sure there are others, but that I know of that have been talking about it for a long time. The 3 of us, okay? But hold on, the other guy is Tim Walz.
Yes.
Okay, and now he's the vice president, and he said we should do it first, and he already got it passed in Minnesota. Okay.
So we assume Cenk supports paid family leave. Obviously, everybody who's familiar with his politics knows he wants paid family leave, healthcare. He'll say minimum wage as a thing too. In fact, when he ran for president, you can see that this is his site. If we scroll down, we can see his priorities. It looks so big. Number 1, time off for parents. 84% of Americans support Medicare to negotiate. He didn't actually say he's for Medicare for all on this. I think that was a strategic choice I think he says he's for public option. I mean, affordable health insurance, public option. This is, I think you could criticize this as abandoning your principles, but there's also sort of a calculated, like, okay, he's running for president. What's realistic in terms of what you can convince people to support versus the more drastic change of allowing everybody to see a doctor for free, as it should be, because that's completely possible. Nevertheless, Cenk is clearly supportive of paid family leave. He's always talking about it.
So
can I interrupt?
And someone like David Sirota, who's a legit, credible journalist who has, like, a long history. I think his wife is in the government, is a politician in Colorado, and he's caught a lot. He catches a lot of shit from the liberal factions within this world too. So him and Cenk agreeing is exactly what you'd expect. So there's just no shade on David Sirota whatsoever. I mean, I am curious if he knows he's sitting with a union buster. I mean, is that something that should rise to the level of consciousness as far as Cenk's peers and Cenk's kind of, professional cohort? Should they give a shit about that? I definitely can tell you, just based on how they never covered anything regarding Cenk's union busting, that he doesn't want them to know about it, probably. It's something that he should feel shame and embarrassment over. I wonder if he does. He doesn't seem interested in talking about it. They've never talked about it on any coverage on TYT, but it'd be interesting if David knows that. If he's aware of the NLRB cases or the anti-worker law firms that TYT hires, or the aggressive union busting itself, or the story I'm telling about my working conditions, because it seems like something that the lever. Maybe I should reach out to them. Maybe they'll do a story about it. It would be appropriate. Probably not big enough of an interest. I'm only one person. Who cares about me, But here's David.
Interrupt for 1 sec. Not only did he get it passed in Minnesota, it exists in some other states. So we're talking about a policy that has proven to be not insane and workable, proven to be like easy to do
and effective, and people are relieved.
Yes,
they appreciate it. So
okay, Cenk just expressed that when people get paid family leave, when his policies are implemented, it helps people feel relieved, and it's good. It's a good thing. We should be providing paid family leave. It's important.
So if and it's at 84% in popularity, 74% of Republicans. Okay, so if they don't do that one, especially given that Tim Walz is in the building, the call is coming from inside the house.
Here's the quote.
The White House, right?
This is what's going to be in the movie right here.
If they don't do paid family leave, they never meant anything.
I think I would only ask.
Okay, if they don't do
family leave, they never meant anything. It's so easy, right? If they don't do paid family leave, they never meant anything.
They never meant anything if they don't do paid family leave. He's talking about the strategy that the Democratic Party should follow with Tim Walz. Clearly a very different circumstance than a boss who has the ability to provide benefits to their workers. Not equivalent situations, except there is a power dynamic that's similar, that people with less power depend on the more powerful people to provide them and to allow them the things that their work earns. But, you know, it's not up to me, so to speak. I'm not the one that went into that situation with more leverage, right? That was Cenk had the more leverage. So when I got hired, I already showed you, this is what I had to sign. Independent contractor agreement that clearly restricts me to non-employee status that meant 0 benefits, including no paid family leave. And this is 0 of all benefits. Nothing. And this is the article that I've written that has a bunch of emotion and kind of writerly spin. Not spin's not the right word, but it has like a perspective. It's biased. I'm not going to act like I'm not biased in this story. That's insane. It'd be insulting to you if I tried to suggest I wasn't. So I would, yeah, despite, as I wrote, despite doing the same job as others classified as employees who receive benefits, and the fact that the previous video editor who held the role was an employee with benefits, I was to be considered a contractor who would receive no benefits of any kind or nature provided to its employees. On Friday, it was an employee's job. When I showed up on Monday, October 29, 2018, it was an independent contractor's. Makes you wonder, who is Cenk Uygur really? So then I get into like some of the stuff about his, you know, describing not getting health insurance as barbaric. Here's him running for president.
We're the only ones that are barbaric enough that live under corporate rule where we say, no, if you didn't have enough money for health insurance, we're going to let your kids die.
So I didn't have enough money for health insurance. I was paid $21.63 an hour, lower than every other editor. And my boss, Cenk Uygur, refused to help me get health insurance when I asked. In May of, that's what facilitated the switch from the first classification to the second classification. I had a meeting with HR. It's in here somewhere. I had a meeting with HR, my first attempt to protect TYT. I asked if they could do something about it. I wanted to know, you know, could I get the same status as the other workers? And why are you taking a risk with your company? This is insane. This goes against all your principles. It seems very unfair that I'm being treated with this level of disrespect. I would just like to get health insurance since I'm working full-time as a video editor here at your video production company. And that was met with, nope, you don't get that. We're just going to call you a different classification. That's when they called me part-time, and which also meant no benefits, no paid family leave, no health insurance, no bonus, didn't get paid for the 4th of July, didn't get paid for vacation time. And I was working 40-hour weeks. And I can prove that, which is people have said, okay, cut the bullshit, just show us the information. And so this is my next post, which is not yet public. And just sidebar though, anybody that doesn't want to get my opinion, I know I said this at the beginning of this podcast, but for like there are 4 articles, Huffington Post, Indies Times, Politico, and the New Republic, all very well researched by credible journalists. Cenk is interviewed in 3 of them. I'm in the New Republic one. And this is a good starting point if you're unfamiliar with the union busting that went on at the Young Turks. I'm not, you know, other than my voice is in one of these as a interview subject, but this isn't like the documentary I'm making or the articles I'm putting out. And I actually would also suggest people check out the Letterhack interview and the Vanguard interview that I did, because those are, I'm looking forward to getting onto more shows and being able to talk about other stuff. But the point is, here's my hours. This is what I was doing. These are the days off I would have been paid had I been classified as an employee. The red X's are holidays. The purple X's are vacations. And the important bit here, at least in this page, is to see, it says part-time temporary, which just to show you, I am not, this is TYT's, these are the 2 invitation letters to the 2nd and 3rd hirings. I got hired 3 times for the same job. That alone is shady. At 30 hours per week. Oh, by the way, just to say, in case you're brand new to this, we started a union for this stuff. That's the kind of premise here, or not premise, context of my efforts, is that this situation I was in at TYT drove me to wake up the union drive that had frozen. It was about a year prior to me. It started, and then it froze. And then I was like, fuck this. I'm not putting up with this. So I started helped awaken the union effort that ended up becoming a big union busting thing during Cenk's campaign. That's what the documentary I'm making is about. So I feel like I might not have mentioned that. But now that I'm coming there, as I said, there were 3 different ethical boundaries that TYT violated. The union busting itself, I think that should be called out. Cenk has not ever been asked about it. The lie, though, as part of the union busting, they said that the union originated as a ploy by Nancy Pelosi and her minions to hurt his congressional campaign. Craziest thing you've ever heard, right? I know, it seems insane. It's a crazy thing. People probably don't believe it. So that's what the documentary is about, partially, largely, I should say. And then the working conditions that made me want to unionize, because my reasons for unionizing are the things that Cenk was afraid his audience would learn about. I'm assuming. I don't know. I can't say it's a fact he was afraid, but I think it's safe to say he'd rather not his audience ask why your workers unionized, as opposed to say, well, geez, they have to bust the union because that fucking union is a Nancy Pelosi operation. Of course he should say no to that. Actually, the truth is his workers were fed up with their working conditions and they secretly organized to do something about it. It's honestly a very common story. But here it is. TYT's threshold for part-time work is 30 hours, right? That's in that top of that letter there. I didn't highlight it yet. I'm going to change that. But here are my hours when they called me part-time. Both of these are part-time labels. So if it's 30, it should be over 6 or under 6. 6 is the threshold for 30 hours on this average column. I did this already at the beginning of the podcast, but you can just see the numbers there. 7, 9, 8, 7, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 7, 8. Like I was working 40-hour weeks and they called me part-time because that gave them the benefit of preventing me from getting any benefits. And that was an emotionally disheartening, to say the least. It was so stressful. I felt like I was being stolen from while I was working there. And my response to that, instead of quitting or instead of just taking it, was to start secretly organizing a union. And so when they came forward with this bullshit that it was Nancy Pelosi and it was the union that started it, I was just like, it was just like gobsmacking that not only did I face these face these conditions that drove me and my friends to want to unionize, and they had their own reasons too, but then the dude just straight up came out and lied about our motivations, and it was very insulting. It felt really gross to be lied about by Cenk Uygur, and slandered that my integrity, that I was tricked, or maybe even that I was in on it in order to hurt his campaign. I was one of the people who were having conversations about his campaign because it's kind of course, your boss is running for Congress. And there was a lot of mixed opinions. What did it mean for the future of the company? What did it mean for what we're doing now? And how are we supposed to deal with, it was a big deal. I was for it, even though I had been unionizing, because I wanted to, but even under that circumstance, I still had this thought in my, that it would be fascinating to see him end up in Congress. That's just more interesting than him not being in Congress. That's kind of the reasoning for that. So yeah, there's a whole lot in the documentary if you haven't seen it, but I just thought it was really fascinating that he sits here and he says this. Sorry, I think I went back too far.
Don't do that one, especially given that Tim Walz is in the building. The call is coming from inside the house,
right?
The White House, right?
Totally.
And he's already shown you how to do it. It's so easy, right? If they don't do paid family leave, they never meant anything.
I think that's.
Does Cenk Uygur believe with that? Because I think he does, right? Does it mean that he means any of his bullshit when he does stuff like this? If they don't do paid family leave, that means they never meant anything. Does Cenk mean any of this? Does it matter? Is it fair? Maybe it's unfair to assign a conclusion. Can I say that he means he's for paid family leave? I think I think you could argue there's a category of political advocacy and his policy positions that he says on air, that he says to people like David Sirota, who take him on good faith. And then I could answer that with, well, doesn't it seem like something you would provide to a worker who's working full time for you? If that's what you believe, if you actually think people deserve any benefits? I had zero, none, totally disposable, no firing protections. And when I did get eventually laid off in January, about 5 weeks before the union came forward, it was at will. I was tapped on the shoulder about 11:15 a.m., had a meeting with Jack Gerard, who is TYT's number 2, Cenk's hand. He's a health insurance executive with Kaiser Permanente and one of the blue ones. 12 years as a health insurance executive. TYT's run by a health insurance executive. Like the dude who filled in for acting CEO when Cenk becomes a politician, both times, that the CEO job becomes this dude who's a health insurance executive. So it's kind of makes sense when you understand that they have employment practices where they're going to deny people health insurance. I hope they're not doing this anymore. I know they're not doing it to anybody who's in the union, and the union is only, I think, 15. This number might have changed since the first year, but like it was originally a group of 15 people after 2 months of contentious union busting. So yeah, and I'm just calling them out. I'm making a stink about it because this was incredibly unethical. It was repulsive and shameful behavior, and I think that TYT eventually needs to address it. But mostly, I just would hope that they retract the narrative that they told that Nancy Pelosi and that Cenk's Cenk's opponents are the reasons that the union started. As I say, here's the film's thesis. The false narrative Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks spread about the origins of TYT Union, that it was a ploy by Nancy Pelosi and her minions to disrupt Cenk's 2019-2020 campaign for Congress as part of TYT's union busting campaign, was not a mistake. It was a lie intended to prevent scrutiny into Cenk's employment practices to avoid being asked, why did your workers unionize? This stupid share quote thing is so annoying. What the fuck? Come on, Substack, get rid of that. So anyway, I guess that's all I got. I think David says a couple of...
I would only asterisk it with paid family leave or something as big
and obvious.
Big, obvious, simple, easy to understand, straightforward to do. Like, I don't know what those other things would be.
Yeah, I got another one. I mean, this is way harder, but because of the entrenched interest and the overwhelming amount of money. Ban private equity from buying residential homes. Lay up, enormously popular. The American people would rejoice. Housing prices would start to edge.
Good strategy. This guy's got all the answers. Okay, hot take factory, Cenk Uygur. That's right. I think it would be. I'm for that policy, obviously. But he's trying to tell the Walz, the Harris-Walz administration what their priority should be.
Down over time. It's such a colossal win. There's no, and then the Republicans are forced to defend Wall Street.
But it's more complicated as a policy. The reason paid family leave is so obvious is because everybody can understand what it's doing for them in their lives immediately.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, like I get sick, I don't lose my job and go bankrupt.
Yeah, and look, guys.
I get sick, I don't lose my job and go bankrupt. And Cenk seems to agree. If I got sick while I was working at TYT, you already know what I'm going to say. And both under the first two classifications, I would have had no benefits. I don't think they would have fired me within the first day or two, but I bet after a week, Hank's out of here. Fuck him. We need somebody else to get in here and edit the breakdowns with us with Francis Maxwell, and we need someone else to get in here and edit these happy half hour with Brett Ehrlich and the aggressive progressive with Jimmy Dore, and fill-in editing for the main show with Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian. I was working on their fucking shows, man, and I had no benefits and no health insurance, and so they would have. They needed me to for some reason. I would bet it if they were to come out forward finally, they would probably describe it as department budget something like that. But that doesn't mean I'm not a human being who deserves the same disrespect the other employees got. I wanted to be elevated to that. But if I got sick, there was no sick leave. I took days off. I didn't get paid for. I took holidays. I didn't get paid for. I didn't get bonus. I didn't get health insurance. Nothing. All I got was fuck you, get to work. And that's how I was treated by Cenk Uygur. So I'm going to keep talking about it. I mean, eventually I'm not going to have to stop talking about it. It'd be weird if I'm still 80 going on about this stuff. But yeah, that jumped out at me when he said, did you really mean it? Is that actually something you believe? Because I'm standing here pointing at all this stuff, and you can make up your own mind to how you want to assess whether Cenk believes this stuff. I think there's nuance to it all, for sure. These types of things are complicated, but it certainly is not a strong argument that he means what he says, that he believes people should get health insurance or benefits or paid leave or sick pay.
Big, obvious, simple, easy to understand.
No, back up more.
24% of Republicans. Okay, so if they don't do that one, especially given that Tim Walz is in the building, the call is coming from inside the house.
Right.
The White House, right?
Totally.
And he's already shown you how to do it. It's so easy, right? If they don't do paid family leave, they never meant anything. So easy, right? If they don't do paid family leave, they never meant anything.
Good point. Thank you, Cenk. Thank you, sir. I must be so annoying to him. It must be. I mean, I just wish I could just that's the movie I'd like to see, is him having to deal with a former worker like me, because this tortures all my potential for ever getting work anywhere. I already have enough reasons I can't be employed. It's just such a wild thing. I certainly didn't expect or want or would have ever predicted that when I drove across the country in 2013 to work at TYT for this opportunity, that eventually 10, 11 years later, I'd be making videos like this. That is absolutely the case. Yeah. So, all right. Well, anyway, good stuff. Check out the articles, check out this other stuff I'm writing. And, that's where we're at right now. I got a whole bunch of editing. I got a lot to work on today. Gonna be real busy to get this stuff up. Hoping it's up soon, but politics wise, the campaigns are going on. The next big events will be the debates and various things. And I still I still think that Kamala and Tim are gonna get married in a dramatic rose ceremony. I predicted it would happen Thursday night, but it didn't. I'm a highly paid political consultant, so I'm sticking to my guns. I know how to read the room. I graduated from the James Carville School of Political Consulting, so it's holding up. I think maybe they're going to interrupt the vice presidential debate, and they'll ditch those two potatoes they're married to, and they'll have a beautiful love, because they're both 10s, right? And it's time for them to step up, Like when your wife, like when Jimmy Kimmel got famous, he just ditched his wife and married Sarah Silverman or something. I don't think he did marry. Sorry, I don't know. Okay, good night, everybody. I gotta go. I don't want to. I love talking, but I'm gonna force myself to stop. So, bye bye. See you later. Bye bye now.